All right. Hey, man, my man, Sankofa, I appreciate you taking time on your Saturday morning to do this interview. Thank you again. Yep. Hey, so with that, why don't we just start with just having you introduce yourself and telling us where you're from and what you do.
My name is Sankofa. I was born and raised in Australia, moved to the States in '88, and Fort Wayne is my home. I am an educator. I teach pre-K, and my passion, other than being able to work with kids, is rapping. And that's what I'm able to do.
Hey, did you say you were born in Australia?
Yeah,
Whoa, had no idea, man. Were your parents working out there or?
yeah. My mom and dad were born and raised Southern California, like Long Beach, San Diego, and then they graduated. There were no teaching jobs. So the Department of Education in Victoria flew them down and offered my dad a 1-year contract.
Hmm.
That expired. Then they came back to California, still no teaching jobs. So they went down. And then a couple of years later, my little brother was born and we stayed there for a while.
Oh, that's wild, man. Were you guys in Sydney or any other part of? Oh, Victoria, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were in a city called, well, we're in a town called Geelong, which was, or a town called Belmont, which is near Geelong, which is an hour's drive away from Melbourne. Like
Okay.
Melbourne would be the touchstone for most people when they'd be like, Australia? Yeah, like southernmost, pretty
Uh,
much.
oh, it's wild, man. Have you been back since then, or just that was the only time you've been in Australia?
We went back 2 years after we moved, so 1990. My mom, my brother, and I went back to see our old friends.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. No, man, I had no idea. Hey, with that, how long have you been making music? I know it's got to be well over 20 years now, man. But you tell me how far
Uh,
back.
Shoot, I want to say like I went over to Sweden to work with Casualty to like figure out the basics on like how to rap in about either late '98 or early '99. And that's when I recorded my first song. And so, geez, we're at 20, yeah, so like 24 years now.
That's
We're about
wild,
24,
man.
maybe 25.
Whoa, 1998, and so and we'll talk about Casualty too, which is dope. So, did you record your first song in Sweden or was it back in Indiana?
No, man. I wasn't even living in Indiana at that point. Like I came back from China wanting to learn how to rap. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to visit my man in Sweden, going to visit Casualty. And so he taught me the fours. We recorded over there at DJ Erase's spot because DJ Erase was the producer for the track. And then it eventually ended up getting to vinyl. So I was in that super rare position of being able to have the first song I ever recorded go to vinyl, which was
That is
amazingly dope to me.
crazy. And I'm gonna bring that up too because that's really cool. And I own that vinyl before I met you, so that's wild. And so was it like I mean, you just didn't have the passion to rap or begin rapping then. Who motivated you to want to try to rap? Who were you listening to in the late
Well,
90s?
well, I started listening to like '88 when we moved to the States. '88 is when Yo MTV Raps hit the air.
Yep.
And so like I come back from school and my mom only let us watch half an hour of TV each day. So my workaround in not having Yo MTV Raps count is I had an old school TV. So we turned the bright down. So you couldn't see any picture, but then I could hear the music. But then when my mom wasn't looking, I turned the bright back up so I could watch the videos.
Oh man.
So like all the dudes from back then were my inspirations, the Ice-T's, the DOCs, the Run DMCs, MC Rens, like you just go down and down the list. And those guys, like I always loved the way that they worked with language. And then it got to Rascass and Chino and just it kept growing. But I didn't really think I wanted to rap myself until I was that year in China and John Doe was sending me tapes with him rapping on them. Casualty was sending me mixtapes. I had a tape with Spawn rapping on it, Spawn and John Doe being double helix. And so that was the point because I've been like writing raps on message boards for ages, but not any concept of delivering them. So when I was in China, I'm hearing them. I'm like, this is my next step. I want to make music, not just write. I want to take that language and put it on the beats and have the format it that way.
That's crazy, man. Like, I know, like, as I was going through your catalog, you do a good job of like referencing all the classic rappers and paying homage to them. So that was pretty dope. And then you mentioned that you were writing raps and the message boards. And were you ever on Hip Hop Infinity at all?
Oh
Doing
yeah,
the battles online?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was.
No. You see, Hip Hop Infinity came later on in the whole like
Yep.
online rap community. Like the first sites I was on was like SethRose.com, which is why I purchased that domain name as a redirect to my Bandcamp, because that was like one of the first like main, Netsy websites. So
Yep.
that's why I swooped up that URL, and there was the Guillotine, and there was the Lands, there was Honeycomb Hideout, there was Davey D's website, and there was like undergroundhiphop.com. And then along came Hip Hop Infinity, and then Philaflava, and all those things popped off.
Oh man, so I probably like I'm familiar with the Lands and then Hip Hop Infinity. So I didn't even know like where Seth Ross is from. I had meant to ask you that, and I'm glad you brought that up, man. So Seth Ross, I didn't know was an old battle site online. I'll have to look it up. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, there may be some screenshots of it somewhere.
Uh-huh.
But that's where I'm pretty sure that's where I first connected with John Doe.
Okay.
And Spawn and Casualty. And those dudes were already like legit rapping at that point.
Yeah.
Like, real audio wasn't even streaming at that point. So it wasn't like you could have a website where they'd be like streaming real audio clips. Like you were going to get something, and the internet speeds being what they were.
Yeah.
It was probably easier for them to just send me a tape.
Yeah, man, that's wild. And now I'm trying to figure out all the connections, how they were made, and so this explains it. And as far as rapping, was that it? Were you into like DJing, or were you into like graphing at all, or b-boying?
No,
I straight rap.
I have a great appreciation for that. The way I look at it, like I'm continually trying to hone my one craft. I am not multi-talented enough to be able to be coordinated enough to dance. I got no can control when it comes to graph, DJing, like that's a whole other ball of wax, and even producing. Like when I lived out in LA with John Doe and Spawn, John Doe had his MPC there, and we had the whole studio set up, and I didn't work that whole year. So I tried to learn it for a bit, but it was just too frustrating, man. I was like, you know what? Forget it, man. I'm just going to stick to words.
Yeah, hey, that's kind of my story too. I tried all that stuff, and it was too tough for me, man. Or at least I didn't have the same energy that I had in writing rap. So that's funny, man, and it's awesome. Well, Jay, I think you are a masterful rapper, and you're an awesome storyteller, and just being in the game for about 20 plus years now. How has, in your opinion, hip hop evolved from the late 80s to the 2000s to where we're at right now? Do you like the transition that you're seeing? Are you liking the stuff that you're hearing now?
I love the stuff I'm hearing now, and the stuff I'm hearing now is inspiring me. Like the new stuff that's coming out from people who like listen to me when they were in high school, and like they'll tell me, "Oh man, I was listening to your stuff in high school." Like these are the ones who are like the big ones, and I'm like, man, I'm getting inspiration from your work. But the thing, like one of the key differences I see these days is there is such a proliferation of all this dope music that it's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
So I tell myself, I'm like, I really want to hear the mix downs of my album, but I already know my album. So I got to go to the thing that I bought on Bandcamp a month ago, download it, and actually go play it on a run so I can appreciate and learn from. So there's so much more music. And then you'll have some people like, oh man, there's no good rap out these days. I'm like, man, you're just listening to the wrong spots, man.
Yeah.
I never listened, like even back in '88, I was not listening to the radio for guidance on what was dope.
Yep.
We had Yo MTV Raps. That even then I was like, nope, yes.
Yep.
And it's the same thing now, except I could pretty much just close my eyes with a fistful of darts and throw it. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be someone dope I never even heard of before.
Oh, dude, you're so right, dude. There's so much dope music out there if you look for it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, your network too is pretty amazing too, man. You got a lot of talented friends, and Yeah, I learned a lot of stuff there too. So just following you on social media. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And yeah, I share the same opinion too. I like a lot of the stuff I'm hearing too, and I try to find motivation and just stuff to help evolve. But that's got to be cool that you're still doing shows with the same cats who look up to you. And so, man, it's pretty awesome, man. They got somebody legendary on their show, and just the cross pollination of music has got to be awesome, man.
It's just like we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to be good people. We're all trying to be dope at what we're doing. And the longer I'm in this, the more people I get to know.
Yeah.
And, people such as yourself, where it's like, what's the priority? Is the priority getting huge? Is the priority, getting like pay? Is the priority this? No, the priority is finding good people, developing friendships with them, and making dope stuff. Like, that's the win.
Yeah, I agree, man. Hey, is there anybody you want to shout out in terms of like just past influences, like in terms of like local rappers that really just motivated you? I know you mentioned Spawn and John Doe and Casualty, but was there anybody else that holds a special place in your heart?
Back when I was more of a fan than I was a participant, it was the Rascasses, the Big L's.
Yeah.
Chinos and all that. But as far as like local cats, like by the time I moved to Fort Wayne, it was really the first time that I was then adopted as part of a scene.
Nice.
And the scene already had some incredibly dope individuals. I was just at an event last week, and one of those particularly dope individuals, Barrage, he was there. Like dude was like the Predator. He had the long, back when I first came, he had the big dreads. Like, you always lifted weights. So like, what's rapping here? What's rapping? And you'd so Barrage, Rhymewise 37 and Scripture from Subsurface. I just saw Rhymewise 37 for the first time in ages just the other day. We had lunch. He's out in Virginia now. Man. Just having that community, I got an album with a friend of mine who used to live in Fort Wayne, went out to Brooklyn. Now he's in Indianapolis. Okay. And it's just like, it's, as you well know, I mean, especially with as much as you move, it's trying to maintain these relationships and these connections, because the more time goes on, the more spread out everyone gets. And it's like trying to make sure to stay in touch with these people, and not out of guilt, but because there's that love for those people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yo, and that's what I love about you too, man. You super rep your city, and not even just the music, man. Like anybody doing art, anybody making beats, producing, you're all about repping Indiana and showcasing that stuff too, man. A lot of people, don't sometimes show that appreciation, but you're never hidden about it, and you do it wide openly, man. And I love that, man. I learned about the Indiana hip hop scene through you, man. So shout out to you for showing some love to your folks, man.
Hey, man, my mentality is, first off, thank you. But my mentality is, if something's dope, I'm going to tell the person. And then social media has given me the opportunity to take something that someone else has done, whether they're in Indiana or whether they're elsewhere, and share it with people who follow me.
Yeah.
Because I want to celebrate what I love. And how do I do that? Like, I'm all excited about making my music, but there's so many other things beyond just me that are dope that I want people to get out there and be like, oh my gosh, like I just referenced Rhymewise.
Yeah.
Like, I realized I got to make him a list of all the stuff that I want him to check out. Because I'm still spending way too much time on Twitter and Instagram and all these other things, and listening to all these podcasts. So I'm able to keep up with more stuff than he would be able to. So I got to tell him about Mighty Healthy. I got to tell him about Zilla Rock. I got to tell him about all this stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, that's super fresh, man. Well, with that too, is a big one that I was excited to ask you about. Was your rap name Sankofa, man? I think I try to find like references or any stories on how you came up with your name, but I couldn't find any good ones. So, hey, for the people, man, can you tell them how you came up with your rap name?
All right. Well, 95, 96, I discovered the internet, because my professor for speech communications made us go on the internet, which back then was futuristic. And so I'm on the internet, and I'm in Minnesota at the time. I just came out of a high school where I was one of two dudes who listened to rap and got made fun of for listening to rap because it was that long ago. So I'm on the internet. I find these message boards, Seth Rose and all that stuff. And I come up with my first message, like my screen name. And it was Mystifier. But it couldn't be just spelled normally. It was uppercase
Yeah. Yo.
Mista. And then there was a space between those uppercases. And then it had the Fiyer in lowercase.
I love
it.
it.
And when that was just my message board name, I was cool with it.
Yeah.
And there was a dude at my college, a friend of mine, I played basketball with every once in a while, pickup games or what have you. And he came by, he's like, "Hey, what's up, Mystifier?" And I was like, "Whew, I have to change that." So because it just didn't sound good. It didn't feel good because I never considered myself Mystifier. That was just a screen name.
Yeah.
But then when he, addressed me as such, I'm like, this is not it.
Yeah.
So back then, this is getting to the Sankofa part, I promise. So back then I had a subscription of Vibe magazine. And before the super specific and targeted demographics, it was like, oh, you have a subscription of Vibe magazine, you must be this particular demographic, right? So I'd get promotional mailings. And one of the promotional mailings I got was for an upcoming African-American health magazine.
Okay.
And so I'm opening the brochure and I'm reading through it. And it says Sankofa, an icon turn, meaning learning from the past and building for the future. Now, I don't know if this was the same day that dude is saying, "Hey, Mystifier." But it was at that point I'm like, this is a unique word. Yep. This describes where I am philosophically, learning from the past and building for the future, while still somehow trying to be, present, which is still a challenge these days.
Yeah.
And that's when I changed my screen name to Sankofa.
Wow.
And that was even before I'd considered beginning to rap. That was just my screen name. But then as I rapped, I kept it.
Yo, that's great, man. I love the meaning behind the name, and it sounds hard too. And man, that's cool. Oh man, I just never got the story on how you got your name, and I've known you for so long, and so that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man. Man, hey, so with when you do when you're writing your songs, how's it kind of work? Do you let the beat kind of define the topic, or do you kind of start, you just kind of start brainstorming topics before the beat's even played, and then you try to fit it on, you try to fit it on a certain beat, or what's kind of your songwriting process?
My songwriting process is essentially being present within that moment. And being present within that moment in the context of songwriting is listening to the beat. First off, am I feeling the beat? And if I'm feeling the beat, then what is the beat making me feel? And then I will go down that path. It's not like when I'm freestyling, which I barely ever do these days. Yeah. And I'm like in a cipher and I'm like, okay, what's the first word I'm just going to rhyme off and hope that trickles out? No, it's whatever the beat brings to me. Like if the beat feels melancholy, like when No Cunnilingus sent me 2 beats way back when. Yeah. And I heard those 2 beats, and the one beat, I was like, this is going to be the song about my dad. Okay. Because the beat had it had those undertones, that melancholy, that powerful emotion. I was like, This is the song I have to write. I mean, there will be times when I occasionally have a concept in mind and then listen to the beat and write it. Yeah. But most of the time, I'm just open to the beat. Yeah. And wherever the beat takes me, I just roll with it.
Nice. And are you just writing through when you put that verse together, or are you brainstorming lines and then you come back and kind of just combine them? Or do you choose to get the verse out and then edit it and then go back to it and just edit it? I'm one of those edit guys, and I try to write through the verse so I don't get writer's block. But what about yourself?
I tend to write whatever is in front of me.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a verse or if it's a song, start, and when it's done, I am done. As far as the editing process goes, I do a lot of pre-editing. Yep. Like I may be listening to a beat as it's playing on my phone in the car, and I'm like freestyling lines to it. And if I like one of those lines, then I'm going to write it down.
Nice.
But in freestyling it, I'm changing the inflection point. I'm changing where certain words are, how they're going to land, you know, cutting out words, adding words, so that by the time I write it, I've already done the editing process.
Yeah.
Like it's all going through my brain. I chew it around in my mouth, see how it feels, experiment like 5 different ways that line could be said, and then it gets written down. So by the time that it gets written down, it is to that particular beat.
Yeah.
And it has already been pre-edited. I am awful at going back and adjusting things. There is part of me that wishes that when in my creative process, that I'd be able to go back to something and redo it. But for whatever reason, it is against my nature to go back. Now, there have been instances where I need to re-record something. Yeah. Like, I'm working on an album with Rod, and he produced it all. And I recorded it, and he's also my engineer. And he's like, you know, the sound was, I says, okay, I'll record it somewhere else. So I recorded it somewhere else. And he's like, you know, the sound is, and he was right, mind you. And it was the quality of the sound. So he guided me through these various spots in my home until we found the spot where like he did the one-on-one, like shoot a video of this space where you're recording. Let me see this space. Okay, there's the issue. How about you try this space? Oh, wow. Oh, there's still an issue. What if you go to this space and then you have this set up and that set up? So that's how I ended up recording pretty much most anything anyone's heard in the past year or so, like down in my basement. So it's an unfinished basement with a washer and dryer, like right over there, and my wife's grow tents, you know, behind like some blankets and curtains and tarps and stuff. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, and I've seen like the pictures too, like, you know, when you post, sometimes you're recording in the kitchen, sometimes you're recording in the closet. Mm-hmm. And I have a similar process too, because I just don't have a space in the house where I can rap. And, you know, I got this little piece of the bedroom where, or at least one of these rooms that I rap at. So that is awesome, man. And that's good, man. You're open to criticism, and Rod is a bad dude, man. Yeah, man. And nice, I mean, man. I'm thankful that I'm at the point now where, like, earlier on when I was rapping, if someone would have given me a suggestion or something, I'd be like, no, man, no. And now, I mean, there is still that voice in the back of my head, but I managed to drown it out enough to say, like, look, what's the big picture? What's the overarching goal? Is the project for me to say I'm dope, which I don't need to tell myself because I already know I'm dope, or is it to try to make myself better? That's right. If I'm going to be able to make myself better by listening to someone else who knows what they're talking about when I don't, then I'll do that. Yeah. And another reason too is why I like working with a lot of people too, is like it brings out a different me in the song too as well. And so, yeah, that nowadays is the challenge, right, for me, just to progress as an MC. And like you said, man, I'm not big into trying to blow up and be big, and just I just want to leave the best music possible, and I don't want to be single-sided. I want to be multi-dimensional in the style that I'm man, and you've been doing that, man. Yeah, like it trips me out, like that you were the dude on Scorpion Circles, like you and Genelec, and like back then I was like, man, he's getting all these props. Who's this guy think he is? And all these years later, I'm like, this is one of the nicest dudes I ever met. He's a goofy dude. That same thing too. But back then I was like, oh no, man, these props, no, these are my props. So man, that's the so there is your moment of honesty. Clearly, I no longer feel that way. But back when there was that hunger, back when there was that, oh man, I'm gonna get the production and distribution deal. They're gonna press my stuff up in Japan. I'm gonna go tour Europe off of this 12-inch. All those dreams that I no longer have. Yeah, and I feel you, man. And that's funny, man. Just first impression of people when you hear their music, and I probably share this. The music was dope. It was my jealousy that made me just not be able to hear what it is. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. Well, it's dope, man. Well, I'm glad we're good friends now, man. And
Yeah. I get the honor of talking to you about all that old stuff. And like I said, man, I went back to your catalog from the early 2000s, and I started with White Collar Criminals, man. So Invest Mentality. Oh man, that was my first introduction to you. About the same time that we put out Scorpion Circles, and you did it obviously with John Doe and Agnes. And to me, that's an underground classic. And I'll talk about how I'm a proud owner of that CD. I do have the original copy. And then you found a gem. You found a box of a couple
Yeah.
of them laying around. I couldn't resist. I had to buy like two more just so. It's so awesome CD, man. And how did that connection with Agnes happen? And so I know John Doe, you were friends with him already, but how did you guys link up with Agnes, who is based out of Santa Cruz, and John Doe is in Southern Cali?
Yeah. Again, I think it was like message board stuff. Like, because it was Agnes and Manic Depressive. So they were suspended animators. That was the production team.
Oh, that's right.
And they had reached out, or Agnes, because he was always the more outgoing one of the two. Okay. I think he reached out to me about working on a project. So I took a Greyhound from San Luis Obispo, where we were at the point, to Santa Cruz. And I stayed at his folks' place where he was living. And we worked on that EP, which was the SA2 EP. Now, SA with a dash and a 2 because it was Suspended Animators, yep. And SA being the first two letters of my rap name.
Ah, dope. I own that CD too. Yep.
Yeah. And so Addy, who did my logo and did the Cunnilingus cover, and then like Mac Lethal's first album cover, and Superstition's 7 Years of Bad Luck.
Whoa.
Like, he did artwork for SA2. Crazy, amazing cover. You know, before the music was even done. Like, I told him this concept. I was like, I want this post-apocalyptic world where there's like a spaceship that's landed, and there's just like cockroaches everywhere, and there's like scrolls of like these alien blueprints. Because to me, that was going to represent the music. And then we recorded the music, and it matched nothing like beautiful, incredible, amazing artwork. And I felt so bad, but I knew that his imagery wasn't the fit for the music itself. Okay. And to his credit, he understood, but he'd already put in all that work, and he does everything by hand. And he was in dentistry school at that point. So he was just like busy. And here I am like, hey man, can you do this? He's like, yeah. And I don't know how many hours he spent on it. And then I'm done. I'm like, ugh. Sorry, dude. Agnes has this photograph of like a burned down church. We're going to use that. And then after we did SA2, you know, John Doe became more familiar with the work of Suspended Animators, that being Agnes and Manic Depressive. Yeah. And then we went up for a week, and we stayed at his place for a week. And it was so dope because like Manic Depressive would have some beats, Agnes would have some beats, and John Doe and I'd be there. And when we weren't playing like Sega Dreamcast or going down to the boardwalk to play video games and me get destroyed at every arcade game imaginable, we were working on songs. Yeah. And so that like White Collar Criminals is that week. White Collar Criminals is at Four Friends. That's why when John Doe and I recombined to work on music, we didn't keep calling ourselves White Collar Criminals. Yeah. Because White Collar Criminals was that span of days with those specific people.
Oh, that's crazy.
And like that, those moments can't be recaptured.
Hey, how long from so when you guys recorded the album to when it was actually the hard copy of the CD was produced? What was that amount of time? Was it a year, a couple months? I'm just trying to frame it because I was in Santa Cruz at the same time.
I think it was about as short as it could have been.
Yeah. So man, we must have been in Santa. Yeah, we were absolutely actually in Santa Cruz at the same time. Me, Genelec, and because after that CD came out, like I'm sure I met Agnes through Hip Hop Infinity, but we had exchanged some text messages. Not text messages, some messages on the board. But he ended up coming over to the house and just we hung out for a little bit, and I can't remember if he brought me a copy of the CD, but I asked him to look through some of the records that we had and that we picked up from a swap meet, and say, hey man, go ahead, take some records and use them for sampling. But we had talked about the production of that album, so it's crazy for me to think, a CD that I hold in high regard, that I was actually living in the same city when you guys put that CD together. That's crazy.
The
Had no
world is
idea.
tiny, man. The world is tiny.
Yeah, yeah. Now, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Now I know you, and oh man, I own a copy of it, a couple copies actually. Yeah, are all the CDs gone now?
No, what's really dope is John Doe has a storage unit, right? Probably is full of mostly records and like collectible action figures, whatever.
Yeah.
But he had still a box from the original, like the repressing, because we had to order 500 off the bat. Because it
Oh,
wasn't like Kunaki where they burn CDs. It was actually like pressing the CDs.
yep.
So we had to order 1,000 copies of the artwork
Nice.
and then 500 CDs at a time. We sold out those first 500 CDs, got the next batch, and then all these decades later, turns out in his storage unit, still got a box of those CDs. So he shipped that box over to me.
That's crazy. And I like for a while I had lost the original copy, and like over the years, man, those are one of the CDs that if I found it online and they were selling for $100, like I would have put my money on it, man. And so I'm gonna stop this interview real quick and tell everybody, whoever's watching this thing, you got to own that CD in your collection, man. So if any of the copies remain, like you mentioned, and they'll probably go quick, man. So hit up Sankofa, pick up a copy, because that is a diamond in my collection, man. I'm still a big collector today, so I'm honored that I have it. And I have a signed copy too, man. So that's my fanboy moment. Yeah. All right. Well, cool, man. And then okay, so you were living in California.
Yeah.
And then, man, just the tracks in general. So I had a couple favorites too. Crash was one of my favorite tracks, where you had some signature back and forth with John Doe, which you still do to this day, and you guys freaking do it flawlessly. That's why I'm always asking, like, how'd you guys record the back and forth portion? And then my favorite track was the Mist of Co. The original.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, on the Mystico, I have to tell you that like at the end, like we made up the story as we went along, right? Like one of us would go and then the next would build off it. The idea being that we were telling a story.
Right.
We didn't know how weird the story was going to be. And then it got to the end and I'm like, the character's got to die. Like the main character's got to die. There's got to be this loss.
Yeah.
But I wrote it, I recorded it. And then John Doe's like, dude, patricide is like killing a father, right? I think you meant to say matricide. So I had to go back and record that last section because I'd messed up that word. But yeah, the Mystico, like where Agnes's folks lived, it wasn't too far from the beach, but it was also like a wooded area. So there were like all these eucalyptus trees around. And so there'd be those hazy mornings.
Yeah.
And so our environment, when we looked out the window, was reflected in some of that song, The Mists of Co.
Yeah.
And as for where we came up with the name Co, I don't know, dude, but it worked.
Yeah. So was that where the bluebird reference comes from? So did you guys actually see a bluebird out the window?
Yeah, man. Like there were beautiful trees, there was mist, there were birds. It was just this super peaceful, opportunity to reflect and hang out with people and play Dreamcast and all that other stuff and eat what? Like, what are those Totino pizza rolls? I think
Yeah.
those.
Oh, I'm not a stranger to those still to this day, man. I love those things. Well, hey, man, what was the decision on putting a remix, right? So I think that CD had a remix of that song too, right?
Mm-hmm.
The original's as it is, man.
I think it was Manic Depressive, had some extra beats, and he was still feeling like continuing to work on things. At least this is based on my recollection. Mind you, this is a long time ago. But he had that loop and ran the loop underneath, and it worked out super dope.
Yeah, amazing CD, super timeless, man. I listened to it, and like I said, I listened to it probably a week ago, and just as good as it was back then. It's even more amazing now. So yeah, awesome. Props for you guys for that. And so now Another release that I wanted to talk about was the Emasculation vinyl from 2002.
Hmm.
And so just so I'll make sure I got the frame of time correct. Was that vinyl done first before Invest Mentality?
Yeah, that
Okay.
song, that was the first song I ever recorded.
Okay. All
It's
right.
the
Got
one
it.
I went over to Sweden and recorded.
Okay.
You know, make Big Pun lose his appetite. Wishing on fallen stars like Chino XL with writer's block. Exercise caution like Ice Cube spotting proteges. Like all these like clever battle line type things. Like that was definitely my mindset at that point.
Yeah, and that was the thing too, man. Like at that time, or at least my introduction to underground hip hop and what I wanted to do was battle type raps. And so that was how I got introduced to Casualty and you, because you guys were big battle rappers at the time, and like the internet. Like I had never used the internet until I got to college, and I was just like, oh man, my mind was blown, and I was getting access to all this different music. And so, yep, Casualty and yourself, I was introduced to that, and then I found the vinyl, right? So I can't
Man.
remember if I picked it up at Streetlight Records in Santa Cruz or one in San Jose, but I own that CD, or I own that record, and so it was a young Sankofa at the time, and I imagine the picture that was taken was on the rail in Sweden. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I want to say like because I visited him twice.
Okay.
First time I recorded Emasculation. Second time I recorded some other tracks, including one I wish I had an acapella from a session for.
Yeah.
But I think it was on that second trip that they're like, hey, this is going to go to vinyl. Bomb Denmark wants to put this out. And so we met up with the photographer and we went to the subway or the train or whatever it was and took photos. And I'm pretty stoked that I got to wear my Young Bleed shirt because I'd managed to get like John Doe was a college DJ. So he'd get all these promo items.
Yeah.
And he was also the super duper collector who didn't want anyone else to have the items that he had.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I get it. But he had like this Young Bleed shirt and it was too big for him. And maybe there were two of them or whatever. So the next time I visited Casualty, I want to say I was living in LA or, you know, at least California at that time. So I was able to get the Young Bleed shirt and take it with me. So on this underground song, I'm rocking a Young Bleed shirt, which was pretty par for the course and continues to represent how I undercut myself on a regular basis.
Yo, is that so? Did you guys just record a bunch of tracks and pick the two that will go to vinyl, or were those two particular tracks or the songs
No,
on that record were the
yeah.
ones that they picked themselves?
Well, I want to say that the B-side was Lazarus Syndrome.
Oh, yep.
It might have like the Society of Nim cut. And the Lazarus Syndrome was recorded when I was still living in Minnesota. Now, mind you, we had to mail an ADAT tape, you know, which is like for those of you who aren't unfamiliar with an ADAT tape, it's basically like a VCR tape.
Yeah.
Except it's for a studio. And so I got mailed an ADAT tape, and then I went to the studio and recorded a studio, and they put my verses on the ADAT tape, and then I shipped the ADAT tape off. And I want to say at some point there was an ADAT tape, and it had like some random Slick Rick acapellas on there, because these ADATs would get cycled around from studio to studio, but.
Dude.
But I couldn't tell you what it was, but I'm pretty sure there were like Slick Rick acapellas on this same ADAT tape that we were back and forth for Lazarus Syndrome, which ended up being the B-side for Emasculation.
Holy cow! Who knows if those Slick Rick track verses ever came out? But
Not me, man.
Do you own a copy of that record still?
No.
Oh man.
Yeah. I'm not sentimental about the music that I make.
Yep.
And the various goods that come with it. Like if I happen to put out a t-shirt and it sells out, and someone happens to wear the same size that I do and they're looking for a shirt and I haven't worn it, it's gone. I would much rather my stuff be out there rather than me holding on to it. I already hold on to enough stuff. I already have way too much stuff. Yeah. I know I made music. Now there may become some point at which I don't know I haven't made music or whatever. but it's all going to be out there and available. Like Rhymewise and I were having the same conversation. He's like, man, I wish you keep your stuff. I wish you do this. I'm like, I am not here to lionize myself. I'm not here to make a shrine to me. Like, here is my stack of stuff. I know I've done stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to prove it to myself. Let someone else have it. If it brings them joy, awesome.
That's a good point, man. Yeah, and it's great, and I'm glad I own a copy of it. So
I am too, man, because it means that much to you.
yeah.
Would it be kind of neat for me to have one? Sure.
Yeah.
Am I like, oh, that's a grail? No, man. I get to make new music. That's what matters to me.
That's right, man. Well, hey, so do you want to talk a little bit just about Casualty in general? I just think he's an amazing rapper from Sweden, and just man, I would love for his stuff to resurface. It's all over online too as well. But do you know if he's still making music? And I know you keep in touch with him on off basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I stay in touch with him primarily through Instagram.
Okay.
Love that dude. One of my great friends, mentor.
Yeah.
He my take is that he got to a point where his philosophical musings overcame the dopeness that he was as a rapper.
Yep.
Like, you start looking at a word long enough and you start seeing all these different layers to it, and then you lose the meaning of the word.
Yep.
So he had mastered the setup and the punchline, and the setup and the punchline, the build up and everything being just so. And he would bust my chops about like, that doesn't really rhyme, because it had like the vowel sound, but not the consonant sound. And he's like, that doesn't really rhyme. When he pointed out, I was like, dude, I don't care. It works. Yeah. I mean, he was telling me where to land things.
Yeah.
When it came to like me determining what rhymed for me and what rhymed for him. And the thing about him is, what rhymed for him is he picked up a lot of his English language by listening to East New York rap.
Yep.
Like, go to Sweden, pretty much everyone speaks English.
Yeah.
Go to Sweden, pretty much almost nobody except for him speaks like they're from East New York.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't know how tall he is. Maybe he was like 5'8", maybe he's 5'10" at the time. But, I'd be walking down the street with him and he'd have his baggy jeans, be walking like the width of his stride was such like he was taking up the whole sidewalk. And he epitomized that whole East New York attitude.
Yeah.
That whole East New York, style. And he was incredible while he was at it.
Yeah.
And then the more he was at it, the less he was feeling it. And I think, other than doing like some interludes on Ink from Rust, pretty much hasn't recorded.
Yeah.
He's
wild, man.
He's a very thoughtful individual. Yep. He's a huge, animal rights supporter. He's big into understanding what is going on in society, and
he sure is.
He's one of those people who sees the rest of the world and feels the pain of the world, and then starts to become overwhelmed.
Mm.
And so he's found his happy place. His happy place is chilling with himself and, whichever pets he has at that time. When I first met him, he had a guinea pig. I can't pronounce the name of the guinea pig because it's a word, so I'm going to spell it so he can't tell me that I said it wrong. INAR was the name of his guinea pig. But dude's always been an animal lover.
Yeah.
Dude was clever. Like, when I first went there, I stayed with him and his mom. And the next time I went there, I was staying at his place.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, shout out to Casualty, man. If you ever get a chance to look him up, he's got some amazing music too.
Oh yeah, man.
Awesome rapper, man. So shout out to you, Casualty. And before I go on to the next album, I forgot to ask this too, man. You still keep in touch with Agnes and the Suspended Animators crew?
Agnes, yes.
Okay.
Agnes and I will text back and forth about basketball, about running, about parenthood in general. Like, his daughter just got her permit, and I was telling him that I was about to go on a podcast session with you. He's like, "So you and I are the only people who don't have a podcast now?" And I'm like, "I guess." But
Oh, man, we'll have to get him on here one day then.
yeah,
Man.
yeah. Oh,
It's crazy.
oh, dude, he is hilarious. His humor is so dry,
Yeah,
and he can be so blunt that you just got to be like, that's him. It's not intended as disrespectful, and you just laugh. But
yeah,
that was like when I got married. Sorry to sidetrack this all.
yeah. No, all good.
When I got married, he was one of my groomsmen. John Doe was one of my groomsmen.
Wow.
Rhymewise was one of my groomsmen. But the real fun was watching Agnes and John Doe interact because
Yeah, I can
John
see.
Doe John Doe is like the super turbocharged court jester, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Agnes is like Stephen Wright, just down.
Yeah.
And Rhymewise 37, subsurface dude, he just like, wow. Because those guys were so opposite, but the chemistry was so amazing that those dudes are just hilarious together.
I can see that, man. Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, I stay in touch with Agnes. I'm
Yeah.
chatting on basketball and other life stuff with him.
Yeah. Is he still
He
doing
says hi.
music? Or oh, hey, what up, my man?
He actually just uploaded some files to a Google Drive that I built
Okay.
because he's still, in between the rest of life working
Yep.
on music.
Sure.
And so he uploaded some stuff today. And so I'm going to check that out later. The idea being that I will listen to the beats, I'll write and record my half, and then send it over to John Doe.
Nice.
And
So
then
is that a hint that is there another follow up that's coming up at some point? You
another
think, or is
what?
it just track? You guys doing another follow up album, or is it just tracks for now?
I would
Who
like
knows?
what I envision, whether or not it comes to fruition, as you're well aware, working on various things.
Yeah.
I envision an Agnes produced Silversmith's album again. Because he did the Algol Paradox back in the
Yeah.
day, and those beats thumped. Like
Yeah.
I used to have those CDs. Jason Rowland, an artist I know from Indiana,
Yeah.
incredible stencil artwork. He did that cover. But what I envision is Silversmith's album produced by Agnes. Now
Oh yeah.
we already have a Silversmiths album produced by Chopzilla. He's a super dope producer out of Indianapolis. I
Yep.
think he has all the vocals. We have written a Silversmiths album to a whole batch of Agent Orange beats.
Yep.
And then there is a Silversmiths album that has been mostly recorded, but we don't have the vocal stems all isolated over Tallyrod beats. So we got
Man.
like three Silversmiths albums in various stages of completion and working on a fourth before any of the others come out.
Dude, did you just say that there's another Agent Orange album that you're talking about? This is the second one that nobody's heard
Yeah.
yet. Holy cow, man.
Well,
That's great.
he did The Beat Shall Inherit the Verse.
That's right.
And we got him the vocals, and then he fell off the face of the earth. And then all these years later, like we hear back from him, and he's gone through his typical trials and tribulations. Like this dude, you would not believe his life unless he told you.
Uh-huh.
And then you're like, oh, and more stuff happened to you. So yeah, after he resurfaced, he's like, oh, I had to rebuild all the beats, but I've rebuilt them. So I should have the album to you in the next month. And I'm like, I've been texting the dude, I've been emailing him, like as a friend, like I'm worried for him. Like this is the same guy who's like was driving a street sweeper and got hit by a train and flung out of his boots out of the street sweeper onto the street and like got into a fight with his girlfriend's ex and ended up losing a bunch of his intestines. Like, this is Agent Orange, man. This is him. So now you understand why I was concerned as a friend, not so much as a music collaborator. Like, I don't care about the music, man. I want you to be okay. Absolutely. But he was okay, and he's just cackling and laughing or whatever. So, and then he just threw us another stack of beats. And so I wrote and maybe recorded two of them, and John Doe's written two of them. So yeah, that at some point would come out maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome, man. Yeah, so I didn't know about the second album. That's dope. Well, good, man. Hey, thanks for sharing the background on Agnes, and I'm excited to hear what comes out of that. And so moving on to the next album. So I wanted to touch on your Ink from Rust album from 2017. who was produced. Was the entire album produced by John Stone, or was
Yeah.
okay?
Yep.
All right, cool, man. And John Stone, where's he from? Is he from Indiana too? Or
John Stone is from Detroit.
okay.
I
All
first
right.
met John Stone when I was an opening act for a rap band at the time. And the rap band was coming in from Detroit, and the band was named the Prime Eights. Prime like Optimus Prime, and eights like the number plural.
Yeah.
And he and another guy were the rappers, and then there was the band behind him.
Okay.
As is usually my case, I gave them some music after the show, and they listened to it on the drive home and they were impressed. And then he'd mentioned the possibility of working on some music. And mind you, I'd been what, on sabbatical for 3 years after the birth of my first son.
Yeah.
Because I really wasn't interested in rap, but said all I needed to say. But then he sent me beats after beats after beats, and we eventually crafted that album together. Unfortunately, Casualty was at a place where he was willing and able to listen to the songs and then record interludes, and he ended up recording them on his iPhone. And then we got the files from his iPhone, and they became the interludes, which John Stone mixed down. Now, John Stone, like Primates, is no longer. John Stone is since solo, and his new name is Damo the Great. Damo, Damo.
Yeah, holy cow.
So if you see Damo on socials, Damo is John Stone, former rapper from the Prime Eights.
Wow, yeah.
If you go even further back in Detroit rap history, I want to say that he and the other lead rapper, and I wish I could remember the other lead rapper's rap name, they were Abstract Intellect back in the Detroit scene.
That's crazy. Yeah, because I do see Damo pop up on your social media quite frequently, but I didn't know the connection. So that is John Stone. And shout out to John Stone or Damo the Great. He's got at least at the time, that sound I really enjoyed. It was a boom bap sound, which I thought had some like Mobb Deep grit to it. And so, it's like the 32 Kennebec song and the Roga Rhythm track were just, I was like, man, the production on this is bananas, man.
Yeah, and John Stone and I have recorded an album. It's been done for a while. I have the tapes. I have the tapes down in my basement. I got the 50 plus tapes ready to go. And the holdup for it is we want to press it to vinyl. And so we went through Mobanenko, which you introduced to me. So thank you again. And I'm basically waiting on the test presses. I think I put the order in at the end of June.
Yeah.
And so 50 Records and Kevin Lemanuel, who's Small World Enough, is the son of my son's first daycare provider, who's an incredibly dope artist. He did the cover art, and it's crazy. So yeah, Damo and I already have the project done.
That's crazy, man.
I have the tapes. I have everything uploaded to Bandcamp. It's in private mode, because you know how you can upload everything to Bandcamp and keep it in private mode.
Yep.
And get everything ready to go. So it's all ready to go. We're just waiting on the vinyl.
That's crazy, man. Well, you know the deal, man. You got to hold my copy, and I'll be ready to purchase it the day of release.
Yeah, that project is called Bleeding of the Golden Goose.
Okay. I can't remember if you showed me the art for it. Was it the
like charcoal looking skull?
Yeah, I think you have. All right, awesome. That's great. And so already in this interview, I've heard you mention Ras Kass's name several times, as well as Chino XL. And so the first track off that album was Ras Kass, where I thought it was a great storytelling track where you talk about your past and then who you were at the time. And so good homage to a legendary MC. And then Cinder Blocks was like, man, had me in my feelings. And, you were talking about your shoes and your mom haircuts until the 8th grade. And then references to Ras Kass Raps and Chino XL on the Wake Up Show. So just, man, just good imagery of what was going on at the time. And I was really touched with the lyrics. And man, like I said, man, you're a phenomenal storyteller. And those were some of my favorite tracks. You did talk about some time that you spent in China. And so, Yeah, I didn't know. Were you studying abroad, or is that something you want to share? That experience in China.
China was incredible.
Yeah.
After like right before I graduated college, I found out there was an opportunity to go teach in China for a year.
Hmm.
Once I found out, A, I didn't need a teaching license, and B, I didn't need to know, any other language other than my own, I was going. I was in a fortunate position where I didn't have college loans, so I had the freedom to go and do something like that. And so I went to China with another kid who had graduated from my college. And there was one person who had taught there the year before who had also come from our college. So I hung out with those guys. It was an amazing time. It
Yeah.
was a reminder of how important it is to be humble, because everywhere I went, I was the sore thumb. I was stared at. I was tall. I was white. But by the same token, when we came into the airport that first time, like, I think it was the Chinese national volleyball team happened to be walking by at the same time,
Yeah.
and they were all taller than me. And then because it was, I want to say Beijing, the Forbidden City, like, we're walking through, and there's this giant up ahead. It was David Robinson.
Oh,
So I
crazy.
don't know. I don't know if he was doing some Nike tour or something, but
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, I'm going to be like, I'm thinking like, not, oh yeah, I'm going to be taller than everyone, but I'm like, I'm probably going to be a lot taller than people. And then I come in, Chinese national volleyball team, like all like up there. And then we go to the Forbidden City, and there's like David Robinson way up there, man.
Oh, that's crazy. Was he like surrounded and just with security, or did you get a chance to get up close?
Oh, I didn't even try to get up close.
Yeah, I
He,
bet
he
it was
looked he
crazy.
looked to have a circle with him, and he was wandering through with his enclave the same way that the three of us, as well as the liaison from the university we were going to teach,
Yeah,
was there hanging out with us,
that's
and it was a
crazy.
great opportunity.
Well, that's awesome, man. You're a well-traveled guy, man, and I'm sure that has played a lot into who you become as a person and as an MC. And that album too, just super dope. Had a lot of input from Casualty as well. He was on that album. And then, man, more tracks, man. Just as I went through the album, I was like, geez, Jesus after Jesus, man. Crimson Feather, the hook on that thing, it never happened, never could have, and it never was. Crimson Feather for the heart that I left to rust. Jesus Christ, man. Just lyrically was phenomenal. Finger Puppets, the first verse from Casualty was just, man. I mean, that guy never misses two verse wise, but he's really good at politically charged raps, as you mentioned
Hmm.
earlier on in the interview. And Kid Gloves was another track. Daddy got himself some presidential kid gloves, got a sweet inheritance. Let's see what he does. Man, I mean, I just line by line, man, I was blown away. And so I wanted to give you some shout outs for the track. And that song too had like the best line closer, which I don't know if you remember, but it was the knock knock who's there orange line.
Oh,
I was like,
oh,
dude, that's great. Huh?
if I can interject for a moment,
Yeah.
in Fort Wayne there is a historic theater. It's called the Embassy Theater.
Yep.
And each year as a fundraiser, they have local bands cover other well-known performers.
Okay.
And it's an opportunity for local acts to get to perform on this huge stage. It's this beautiful historic building. Well, I was invited, and first I'm trying to think of who I'm going to cover. And I don't want to cover rap because that feels like biting to me. So I'm like, I'm going to cover In Excess. So, like, my mom was a big NXS fan. Like,
Yeah.
NXS is dope. And Michael Hutchins, props and love and rest in peace or whatever to him. But dude didn't exactly need a high range. And so I was like, I got the vocal range for that. So I hit up my friend Jared Andrews, and he had his Casio tone. And so he was essentially the musical backing. So like there are all these bands like pulling out all the stops. And then there's Jared Andrews with a Casio tone. And there's me. And we're doing it all, and like people are pulling for me because I'm not doing that well. And the agreement was that we get to perform like for 30 minutes, right? But one
Yeah.
of the songs could be an original song. So there's like, oh, here's your carrot, you get to play one of your songs. So after I'm done fumbling through these various NXS songs, which I thought I knew, but I was too nervous to remember,
Yeah.
I get to play the one original song, which is Kid Gloves.
Nice.
Now you have to understand, Fort Wayne, Indiana is in Indiana.
That's right. That's right.
And Indiana may as well be the Bible Belt. And so we're kind of deep into the night. So the mom jeans cowboys and their Botoxed wives, you know, have had however many Miller Lights before. Miller Lights were not something you want to be drinking. And they're all filming, and then they realize I put on those little hands on the end of your fingers.
Yeah.
I used to hold the mic, and then they realized what I was rapping about and what I was talking about. And you could see the crowd change. Like there's some of my friends who are in the orchestra pit, and they're like, and everyone else has some fingers up that were not those fingers, and they were like, the cusses were raining down on me, like the death threats. Like I felt like I had just done a heel turn. Like I was like, I can't hear you. Just yelling in the microphone, and they're just like, I'm gonna kill you, mother, blah blah blah. Like my friends were worried for my safety, for my life that night.
Oh man,
like that was so much fun. So thank you for bringing up Kid Gloves, because it helped me remember the night where I got to clown on a whole bunch of people I vehemently disagree with.
Holy cow, man. I wish I was there for that performance. That was definitely.
I'm glad you weren't, man. You're safe.
Oh, man. Dope, dude. And then obviously the album closed. I think it closes with Ink from Rust, the title track, which was awesome. Just song shout out to your supporters. Without them, you know, it's just you, right? And so I agree, man. Nothing with the folks who support us, man. So awesome close to the track. Another 2017 album that I went through was 100 Magnets. That was produced by Jay Dankworth. Is he still making music too?
Yeah, he's still making music.
Okay.
If you've seen cats rocking like the dig, find, listen, sample, chop, repeat.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that stuff. That's Jay Dankworth.
Ah, okay. Cool.
So Jay Dankworth, he's also an educator. He's out in LA. Interestingly enough, he was one of the first people when I was collaborating with. Like he wanted to talk to me on the phone.
Yeah.
Before we worked on music, it wasn't like your music is dope, or like I like your raps, I like your beats. Cool, let's do something. He's like, I want to talk.
Yep.
And so we talked so that he could feel comfortable enough in having that rapport to then work on music. And so we did. And he sent me, you know, whichever beats. And you know me, I like to make more music.
Yep.
What I ended up doing is I recorded like 2 songs to one of his beats. So I'm like, okay, man, you've got however many songs from Ink from Rust, or not Ink from Rust, sorry, 100 Magnets. And I recorded another one. So what you can do is just take those, they a cappella, make a beat to it, and then we've got another song for our project.
Oh man, yeah, they had the freezer pizza track, and just that's another thing you're good at is the title names, right? You pick.
Oh, dude, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And some of them I steal from my sons. Like they'll be having a conversation like, I have a song, Thick Shark with a Hook Tooth, right? And that was from one of my sons looking out the car window, and it was cold, and there was this piece of ice that was like melting and like running down the car window. He's like, that was like a thick shark with a hook tooth. Or, you know, like Pain in the Business, or like Black Ketchup. Black Ketchup came from my youngest son.
That's right.
When he was trying to describe barbecue sauce. But if you didn't understand,
that's awesome.
But if you didn't understand that, and then by me taking out the vowels and making it just that one, you know, this one chunk of letters, it seems foreboding. And the music was foreboding, but it was all based on my then 3-year-old calling barbecue sauce Black Ketchup.
Ah, that's great, man. Yeah, you certainly do. Like I mentioned, just, you know, have great names for these tracks and albums, man. And, you know, something too, like as I produce albums, I have some, or let's say put out albums out, you know, I got old stuff and then I want to be done with it. But, you know, sometimes, you know, people will ask for a repress and stuff. And so I don't know if you feel the same way, but those 2 albums, I thought, like, man, I'd love to see those things on vinyl or just repressed. I don't know if you ever repressed them, but those are some great albums, man.
Well, man, let me write that down then.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of good tracks, man. So yeah, I'd love to see that resurface too. And then I jumped into your 102 Magnets album from 2019, and so
Mhm.
there you explain the story. Jay Dankworth is, well, I saw a reference to dig, find, listen, sample, and shop and repeat. I don't know if there was a tie between that, but that explains the story. And so,
Yeah.
man, just your, which I haven't talked about yet, is your ability to do double time raps is phenomenal, and just to ride the beat in general. Sometimes you'll sing, sometimes you do double time, and you have a knack for that too as well, man. So shout out for being mad diverse in your delivery, man.
Well, thank you, dude. That's why, like, for the song on the Chumzilla album, I'm like, what's the best bait I can have to get you something? Not that I would send you something and you wouldn't, come back with something, but I'm
Yeah.
like, how can I cater this specifically to you? So I was like, and then put your name all over the hook and then have it there. If I can speak for a moment on 102 Magnets,
Yeah, please.
Jay Dankworth, he like once we did 100 magnets,
Okay.
I have a tendency to be rather persistent, especially when I feel something is worth following up. So I kept following up with it. And finally, he got me these beats. And he's like, "Are you feeling these beats?" And I'm like, "Yes." But the beats were like the intro, the verse, a hook, and the beginning of the second hook. And that was it. Like all the beats. And he's like, "Oh, you need to get it. You need to get a Castor Pollux, who was the guy who had engineered 100 magnets." I'm like, I don't understand why. But then and then I'm reaching out to Castor Pollux,
Yep.
and then I'm like, wait a second. These are all already formatted. Like these are like demos of beats. So I downloaded some app onto my phone and basically stitched the beats into complete songs.
Oh, wow.
So I just lined them up. So this intro, verse, hook, little bit of the second verse,
Yeah.
I turned into 3-verse songs by stitching them together, because I didn't realize at that point that Jay Dankworth was pulling those things off of zip disks.
Wow.
And then I find out later on, these are like 15-year-old beats or 15-year-old snippets that got to me. But I guess the lines of communication were such that I didn't realize that was all there was to the beat. I was like, "Yeah, can you stretch out this?" He couldn't stretch out the beat. That was it.
Oh man, that's crazy. So did he produce that entire album too with those
Mhm.
tracks?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
He produced it with those snippets straight off the zip disks.
That is crazy.
Yeah, 15-year-old beats, man.
Yeah,
They were dope.
they were super. I agree with that indeed. So, oh man, I didn't know that. And then I got through your $5,000 Flashlights album, and Burn the Cape was my joint.
Yeah,
And what I
man.
especially like about that album is that you had a reference line going out to Manny Pacquiao. And so I'm a Filipino dude, so I got a special place in my heart for Manny Pacquiao. So that was great. That was the standout line for me. But either you got it or you don't. And then that line, the fuel evaporates fast with miraculous fame. I see the metaphor in that, and I
Mhm.
agree, man. So shout out again for just
Yeah,
some superb lyricism, man.
and in the ways that time can change, that song was inspired by Nas, because at that point
Oh,
he was on a run of mediocrity, in my opinion.
okay.
And I mean, mind you, now he's had all these like Hit Boy, like he's back and sharpening the blade, doing
Yep.
all that stuff. But like, I don't know if it was him trying to do some double time or something on one of like the Lost tapes 2 or something. But I heard that clip, I was like, this is garbage, man. This is not good. And so Burn the Cape was the whole idea of like, this is one of my lyricism, vocal idols, just like
Yeah.
water. And so that
Oh,
song is inspired by him. And just like with the passage of time, changing perspectives and everything else,
yeah.
now he's back at it, man. Now he's putting that work in.
Yeah. No kidding.
Burn the Cape is irrelevant when directed at him, but thematically, like the idea of us idolizing someone and why?
Yeah, good point, man. And yeah, I think he was just going through some, just reinventing himself. So that's great. That's awesome. The story behind that track, which again happens to be my favorite, and a lot of other dope tracks that people need to check out. Some that I enjoyed personally were Pez Dispenser Neck and Rebar Bones. Again, more dope beats on that, and I heard a mention of Agent Orange on that song. Did he produce that album, or did he do some
Yep.
of it? He
Yeah.
did. Okay.
Agent Orange produced all of $5,000 flashlights.
Oh, okay. Oh man. So I had no idea he did another album with you. So great.
And so, like, the reason it's called $5,000 flashlights, do we have time for this? Like I suppose you can edit it out if you want. Anyway,
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
his dad worked in the oil fields, right? So you're always clocking overtime, you're always getting banked, and his dad was a hoarder. And in one of his dad's rooms, where security cams like set up in the hallway, and the door is locked. You open the door, go in, there's a safe. You open the safe, and there's whatever's in the safe. You remove the lining on the inside of the safe door, and there are flashlights. You take out the flashlights and unscrew the flashlights, and instead of D batteries, there are rolls of $100 bills. So each of those flashlights had $5,000 inside of them.
Wow.
So that is why the album is called $5,000 Flashlights, is because his dad legitimately had $5,000 in these flashlights in the lining of a safe in an office, which was locked and had like security cameras in the hallway before.
Oh, that's some old school security of cash, man. That's great. I love the story behind it.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man. Dude, man, Agent Orange, man, very prolific guy too, man. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear the new set of stuff that you guys put out, man. Well, dope.
Me too.
Yeah. So after that album, I jumped into which was my reintroduction back into your music. So I took a break, just depending on the job that I got in the army. Sometimes I'm more into music than other times, but I got heavy into it during COVID, and so that was where I first ran into your Glide Drexler album and didn't realize that you were still doing music. And this is my favorite Sankofa album cover of all time.
Oh man, yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm glad that you did the slip mat for it, and I own one, and that's my favorite.
I still gotta get you the custom blanket that was printed up.
Whoa, for that! Oh man, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I got it somewhere in my inventory. I got to go through, pull out the old man desk where my microphone is set up, and I will send that out to you.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, who did the art for it, man?
Oh man, a guy named Junkyard Sam.
Okay.
He's actually he was a fan of Casualties.
Okay.
And he's in the States somewhere. I want to say out Northwest or something. And he worked in video games.
Okay. Oh wow.
Video game development, but his hobby was drawing by hand.
Oh
and
man.
So I'd seen these things from something he did for Casualty, like this floating island, with Casualty rocking the mic and all this super detailed, whimsical stuff. And Junkyard Sam's like, man, I love your music. I would like to work with you at some point. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
your artwork is way better than my music, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say yes, please, and thank you.
Yeah.
So when I was working on Glide Drexler, I was like, this might be the opportunity for us to work together. So I reached out to him and he's like, yeah, can you send me songs? And at that point, I wasn't recording at home. I was recording in the studio. So I had written some songs, but I had not recorded them. So I sent him the lyrics, and I sent him the lyrics to 6 songs. And so inside the Glide Drexler album artwork are so many Easter eggs.
Oh man.
Okay. I have a tattoo that was based on a drawing my now 12-year-old son made. And it's an orange, it's a rectangular orange skull. And he incorporated that into the artwork.
Oh, that's great, man.
There is Harold and the Purple Crayon, which is a tattoo I have to signify my youngest son.
Oh, man.
That is in the artwork. And then there's this big red robot in one corner. It's like a bad guy, evil robot. And that signifies my older son, who at that point was fascinated by robots. And then there's, of course, there's my wife with her huge glasses standing next to me on the boat. And the boat has the initials, and the initials are some of the initials that I have tattooed, like my dad's initials and my granddad's initials.
Wow.
And then there's like, but there are so many different elements. And the octopus on there represents Keter, the producer.
Oh, wow.
And like, you could spend an entire podcast episode like breaking down that album cover, but that's Junkyard Sam.
That's a phenomenal cover, man.
Yeah, man. That's why I had to get it on slip mats, because if I was going to do slip mats, I had to have the dopest possible thing. And to me, like the intricacy of that artwork and all the meanings of it, absolutely that one.
Yeah, and I had stopped listening to music, I think, for a little bit, or just looking out and searching out, and I found that album, and I was like, Jesus Christ, he's just 3 times as doper as when I first heard him, man. And some of my tracks on that album, Don't Call It, was awesome. Your line, Here to Lose to Gradually Win, man. So the lessons that you learn from all our defeats, man, was really deep to me. And I think you talked about, I don't know if this was a true story or just for the song, but you talked about a leg injury that you wrote in that song, and just
no, that happened.
Okay, yeah. Motivational, man, like not to quit. Yeah. Was it from running, or is that injury that
it was based on running, but it happened when I was doing a Tough Mudder.
Oh shit! Okay.
And I was having a blast at the Tough Mudder up until the point where my Achilles snapped, and I was like, oh, okay, it's gone.
Oh man. Yeah, so I just you incorporated into the song, wrapping up the cast, trash bag, duct tape to my leg to keep the cast dry, and and just the metaphors in that song, and just the
I don't miss those days at all. And the worst thing is, it's like my wife was then working on her thesis.
Okay.
My doctor's orders after surgery were to stay on the couch like all day until going to bed.
I don't see that happening.
No, it had to happen though.
Okay.
So I'm posted up on this couch. Like the only time I get off the couch is like for 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
Like wheeling around on a scooter. So my ability to be with our sons while she's working on her thesis, like all that stuff, like the reverberations of that moment. And I gotta say, like she rolled with it super well. Like the boys rolled with it super well, but I was in tears after it happened, like calling her because I had disappointed them. Yeah. And so it was one of those things where I needed to document that in song.
Yeah, I could see it, man. And that was, I mean, that song really hit to me. So I can feel the emotion behind that. And you did it again too with the Artie Bop song, man. That one too, I was like, oh my God, dude, this song, it hits, man. And that was a song that you were talking to your son and just talking about you being a dad, lessons that you impart on your children. I love the message, and the message that you conveyed to. Was this your younger son or your older son? It was directed to one song. Okay, yep, or one son. Yeah. And so just the lines, man, too. That one that hit me was, the same freckles that you hate is what makes you beautiful. God dang, dude. I was like, Jesus Christ. So, man, those 2 songs just, I felt the feeling, the raw emotion. And those are 2 of my favorite tracks, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So after that album, I jumped into Weird Summer 2020, your black and white tape produced by Wing Clipper. Wing Clipper, is he from Detroit too? Where's he from?
Wing Clipper is from the Chicago area.
Oh, Chicago. Okay.
He's out in Illinois. And he's one of those, like, it's crazy to me that people feel so strongly about my music. They're like, I love your music. I like to work with you. Like, I hear someone and I'm like, you're dope. But he's one of those people that's like, getting to work with you meant so much to me. I'm like, wow. Like, it's humbling to have those moments where it's like, the stuff that I have worked on, the stuff that I have put out, the stuff I take care with my friends to get out there means so much to someone else. Yeah. Like, I don't really think about that when I'm making the music. Yeah. I try to be present when making the music, but with Wing Clipper, it was one of those times where I was like, he got to work with me. Okay. Like, not we got to work together, but he got to work with me. Like, it was a big deal.
No, and that's awesome. And that's a good point that you raised. And I need to give you credit for this too, man. Is that you're not a snob rapper, man. I don't mean just like, hey, I'm this dude that I'll just work with certain set of people, man. I love how you're open and just working with folks in the music field in general, and you're super good with that. And like I said, man, you show mad love just to the music community. So, and Wing Clipper is dope, not taking away anything from what he does, but I love just that you're open with working with all sorts of people in all sorts of different styles.
Well, there's so many talented people out there, man.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're asking the question back earlier in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
like the difference between like when I first was a fan and now.
Yeah.
It's just such this wide swath of people. Like, gosh, who was it? Like Slumber Logic is some dude who, like, without Twitter, I wouldn't have known about. And I'm listening to this guy's album, and I can tell why it took him like 2 years to build, because the sequencing and the artistry and the craftsmanship that went in to have everything. Like, it's not one song. It's listening from this song, the journeys to this song, the journeys to this song, and the whole thing, like, it comes together so well. And like, if I shut myself off to only working with the same couple of people or not listening to other music, how am I going to learn? How am I going to get better myself? How am I going to be able to, work on my craft? Because the moment I stop working on my craft, I'm done, man. I'm not interested.
Yeah, most definitely, man.
Yeah, so Slumber Logic, super dope.
I gotta look that. You gotta share me the link, man.
Yeah, I will, man. I will.
So with that Wing Clipper too, I wanted to bring up the point that this was also, I saw a different side of Sankofa, man. So I thought in comparison to the beats that I heard previous to that, these were slower, more chill hip hop beats on the album, and I like the different side of Sankofa that was showcased on this album. The track in case that it isn't, the line about attacking the system, but the system laughs and hasn't listened. Jesus Christ, again. But yeah, different side of Sankofa that was super dope, man. And I thought that was my favorite song. And then you close the album with Concrete Floors, which beat is banging, and Wing Clipper just freaking kills it.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, shout out. And that one came out on tape, right? I think it was cassette only, right?
Yeah, Wing Clipper released it on tape, and it was like a color-changing tape.
Yep, that's right. And I think the cover was that the one with the picture of your face, would just kind of like look like the blind shadow?
The lines through it, yeah.
Yeah, that was dope, man. Yeah, I got that, man. So that was a great album, man. Shout out to Wing Clipper from Chicago.
Yeah, dude is super dope. He let's see, what is it? Like, Weird Summer to me is the thematic continuation of SA2.
Yeah, I can see that.
So basically, if you bookend them, like SA2 at the beginning, and then a bunch of stuff in between, and Weird Summer, like, stylistically, to me, I was carrying that philosophy or mentality as I was building that project.
Yeah, dope, man. Yeah, great listen to, man. And as I mentioned, I just had a good time going through your catalog, man. How we doing on time, man? Are we good still?
We're good, man. I still have battery on my laptop.
Okay, cool, man. So I'll run through these, man, but this is fun, man. And then you went on to produce an album with Chef Mike, 313260. I took a stab and guessed what the title was, and I was correct. They were area codes for Detroit and Indiana.
Yep.
And then Cuts, and shout out to Dap One, man. Dap One's a DJ from Indiana too, as well?
Yeah, he's out of Fort Wayne.
Yeah, was he the DJ on the J Tub song that you did?
Yes.
Dude, and I'll talk about that song later, which is freaking amazing too, man. But Chef Mike, Dap One, Chef Mike from Common and Normal Crew from Detroit, Michigan. A lot of dope tracks with Chef Mike, and frequent collaborator too. But do you want to talk a little bit about the just how that project was put together and how that came about?
Sure. I will try to keep it short.
Yeah.
I can't promise I will, as you well know, because I started running. All right. So again, I think it was via Instagram that I found out someone had dropped the beat tape. It was a Common and Normal beat tape. It was called Cheap Gas. On Cheap Gas, it was produced by Chef Mike and Burnt Bacharach.
Oh, yep.
And that was back in the days when I was doing like the write a rap and then rap it and share it on Instagram thing.
Uh-huh.
And I enjoyed the beat so much that I was just like, you know what? I'm going to write 20 bars to this beat. And I even changed the way that I wrote. so I could better read my handwriting, because my handwriting is atrocious. But so I got these little notebooks, right? But I changed the way that I wrote, so I wrote in all caps. So even though it's super hard to read for you guys, it's easier for me. And the reason I did that is so that I could have these, like, because I think I did it for like 28 days straight. I went through all their beats. I wrote 20 bars and wrote it down on my notebook and then rapped it. And they were all for it. And that's how I developed a relationship with Chef Mike, how I developed a relationship with Burnt Bacharach.
Yeah.
And Chef Mike is a huge conduit to, you know, Common and Normal umbrella, which is basically all these friends who make stuff.
That's right.
And there's so many dope producers within, you know, that Common and Normal family, because last summer there was a barbecue and a whole bunch of Common and Normal folk got together. Man, it was just beautiful to be amongst all these people I'd never met, but they were my friends.
That's right.
And we just hung out at that barbecue, and oh man, that was a beautiful thing. So that's how Chef Mike and I came to build on a project, is because I was basically doing my audition tapes by writing 20 bars a day, rapping on one of them, posting on Instagram. And I'm like, you know, we should do a project. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and a lot of standout tracks on that album. Limited was my track on this one. Shout out to Too Late Now was another crazy double time Sankofa rap song. Nightmares beat was awesome.
Yeah.
And I just love how you write the beat, man. And so another thing too, man, just and I don't think I mentioned this too as well. I mean, I told you got a knack for writing the beat, and you got a knack for naming the tracks. And so also wanted to give you props for the way that you arrange your tracks, which is also a skill too, right? Well, the way that you develop a theme for the album, and just the way that you take people on the ride. And so as I was going through these these albums even more deeply, just the way that you take us on that lyrical journey was really good, man. And so this one really, like, I was like, whoa, man, I just love the way I got into it and how it closed, man. So dope, man. I love it, man.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, man. This is something I like to do during interviews too, because I know you have attended in the past too, but I always like to talk about Scribble Jam. And if folks like have ever been, I always like hearing stories, because I missed out, never went. Boo-hoo me. And so I know you're an attendee of some past events, man. And so would you, for the audience and whoever gets to watch this video, talk to about just any awesome memories that you had from Scribble Jam?
I will try to keep this not focused on me, because the rest of this is me talking about me. But I will say that I really appreciated basically an entire afternoon of hanging out with No from Cunnilinguists and Corey Calico. And Corey Calico and I were like freestyling like all afternoon. And Kashmir the Professional and I also hung out for a bit that same day. But I think the hugest moment for me was Scribble Jam. And Scribble Jam, for those who didn't know, was an event that was hosted in Cincinnati. I think Mr. Dibbs and, you know, various other folks had a hand in creating it, but it was like this multi-event weekend where there'd be a show on Friday night. And then on Saturday, this particular bar that had a huge outside area with these walls, you know, where the graph cats were putting their pieces up on the walls, and there'd be shows and there'd be battles and all this other stuff. Like there'd be B-boy, B-girl battles. And some of these people, like later, were the people I found were in the Fort Wayne scene who had first encountered me there. And DJ battles and, you know, the rap battles or whatever. And I think the coolest thing for me was the DJ battle, where this was back when Scratch Bastard, I think, had long hair. And so whatever the Star Wars song was, like the first time, like, because this is before the internet and videos and like social media and everything, where you're like, oh, this person's known for this. You know, there's this person way up on the stage over there, and they're like cutting up Centaur, you know, $1.65 Centaur. And next thing you know, like the beat juggling, and then it's like people start to realize, dun, 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 dun. Just like I'm getting goosebumps right now, just thinking about being there in that moment, as there was this synchronous flood of realization of what Scratch Bastard was doing. And the crowd just lost it.
Oh man, he's phenomenal, man.
So,
Yeah,
so to me, that was my Scribble Jam moment, to just being part of a community. And that was also the first place I saw Brother Ali.
oh wow.
Your Shadows on the Sun dropped, and
Yeah.
he came out. You know, first time I saw Sage Francis perform.
Yeah.
You know, but just to be among so many other dope cats. I met Robust out there for the first time.
Oh, from Chicago. Yeah, super
Yeah,
dope, man.
Robust. I actually got him on an upcoming project.
Woo, man, I can't wait.
Dude,
Whoa.
I am so stoked that I managed to get him, because I've known him for years, like when I lived in California.
Yep.
But he came out for a bit to visit his dad or whatever. But yeah, just getting to see all these people, getting to be part of it. And like Edon was there and he performed.
Yeah.
This is back when Edon had short hair, and I don't remember, like Insight might have been his like friend or whatever, hype man.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. White Collar Criminals was supposed to perform that at Scribble Jam at some point, but it never came. It never came through. And Edon, you know, gets done performing. He comes down. John Doe and I are talking to him. I don't even know how it happened to be. And Edon's like, yeah, so how do you think the performance was? And I'm like, yeah. And John Doe's like, well, you could have done this and this and this and this. And I want to say this is the same Scribble Jam where Sage Francis was interested in talking to us until he realized that John Doe wasn't John Doe.
Oh,
That,
right.
like, I don't know if he thought he was like John Smith from Peanuts or Corn or whatever, but it was amazing to watch this switch flip where he's like, oh, and then he just like walked away. I was like,
I think there was like a famous John Doe DJ too as well. But man, you mentioned some awesome rappers from back in the day. And do you know if Cashmere the Professional is still rapping at all?
I don't
I gotta
know.
look him up, man. Yeah, and then No,
Yeah,
keep in touch with No?
Yeah, I'm in touch with No every now and then. I follow him on Patreon.
Yeah.
And you know, his Patreon, like, that's like the textbook. If anyone wanted to start up a Patreon, like, subscribe to him and look what he's doing, because the amount of stuff that he is bringing from, like, oh, here's a beat from back when, here's a photo from here, like, here are all these snapshots, here's an unreleased track, here's a track that was the beat that eventually became the beat for something I worked on with Sadistic.
Oh man, that's great.
Like, dude is painstaking when it comes to putting his stuff out. So I would highly recommend subscribing to Noah's Patreon and just diving into that stuff, because like he's one of those people who from our time, presumably, is like his living is through music. Yeah, sure. And I have all the respect in the world for people who managed to do that. Yeah,
100%, man. It's a hard thing to do, and he's certainly done it, man. Yeah, oh man, that would be crazy. Another Sankofa No track would be awesome. And there's a funny story about Edon, man. So I know he's still DJing to this day. I don't think he's rapping anymore, but yeah, Edon was another amazing rapper. That singing shit-based track he did was wild, man. Yeah, well, good, man. Well, hey, man, with that, man, I also wanted to talk about just myself and you, and I've had the fortune of doing music with you as well, and I took a long break, and then started doing music again in 2019, and then during that COVID time, I had invited you to jump on a track with me, and we turned it into the Circus EP on Wax,
which is amazing, and thank you.
Yeah, oh man, that was cool, man. And so, that was exciting for me to get a chance to work with you, somebody I looked up to, when I was coming through the rap game too as well. So very, very happy with that project, and I'm glad that kind of sparked just more songs and more albums. And we went on to do Hirakuma's Revenge, which is super dope, man. And fun fact about that album, right? You want to talk about how we came up with the cover, man, or how you did?
Yeah. So my oldest son, from Hey Arthur to Artie Bops, he developed the final boss. And the final boss for video games, because he loves video games, was called Harakuma. And then he drew the final boss. But the drawing that he'd made that I got to Tim Barron, who ended up doing the art, apparently was another final boss that he developed called Checkmate. Nice. So Dad made the mistake of thinking that was Harakuma and getting it to Tim. And when Tim rolled with it and came up with it, He's like, yeah, I hope your son likes it. And I showed Arthur, and Arthur's like,
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
You gotta understand, like, you know, the old Muppets on the balcony, right?
Yeah, yep.
Like the ones who are hating on everything. Like, there's so much of me that is that. The same way that I listen to like Crate 808, and Ray Ridge is, you know, the guy who like, oh man, that doesn't have drums. Man, that's not rap. You know, so much of that is me, but it serves me no purpose to express those sentiments.
Yeah.
But when my son's like, I love the artwork.
I think it's dope, man.
And the artwork is super dope, but it wasn't my son's vision.
Oh man.
So anyway, this last week, my son had both my sons had art camp.
Okay.
And so they made graffiti walls. And there was another Arthur in his class, so he didn't want to do Arthur. So what he did is he made his graffiti wall say Harakuma.
Oh man, that is dope.
Here is your first and probably only glimpse at Arthur's Harakuma graffiti wall.
I like it, man. That is sick. Well, good, man. And Tim Barron too. I think he's done some stuff for Tony Hawk too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
His art is phenomenal, man.
Yeah, he's done all kinds of stuff. He's another one of those dudes who like follow their passion, and that is the way they make their living. And all the respect in the world for those cats, man.
Yeah,
I do all this with a safety net of a job.
Yeah.
I have benefits. I know what my paycheck's going to be. I can budget. Which is why I feel it's so important for me to be able to support other people who are doing things for themselves.
Bingo, brother. That's all it's about, man. Yeah, I agree with you that. And yeah, thanks to your son for the inspiration behind the album cover. And yeah, a lot of dope songs too, man. Pour the Pen with PhD from San Diego, and
yeah, man,
some of the Common and Normal guys. And we did Here We Go with John Doe, with OJ, the producer.
Yeah,
from
man.
Beat Rock Music Camp. And that was dope, man.
Spawn's wife. Sorry, Spawn's wife. She's part of that community.
That's right. That's right.
Faith Santilla. Yep. And so when she was looking at the credits, she's like, "Wait a second, is this so and so? Like, who's Memphis Reigns?
Yeah.
What's his given name?"
Yeah.
And when I told her your given name, she's like, "Yeah, that sounds right. Okay."
Oh man, that's wild, man. Yeah, and so she comes from an amazing camp of rappers too, man. And she's serious on the mic, man. Her spoken word is phenomenal. And then her husband Spawn from Double Helix too, which I also own that CD too. So, well, I think when I spoke to Faith too, and I found out that she was married to Spawn, it was even boggled my mind even more. And man, that was crazy, man. And so
Spawn always loved spoken word.
Yeah.
Like, he was down with Saul Williams. He had all those books and everything.
Yeah.
Like when we were in San Luis Obispo and then moved down to LA.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely a small world, man.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off when you talk about
No, that was amazing, man. I love hearing the background stories behind all this, man. And so, let's talk about that relationship, man. So, Sankofa, you have a John Doe feature role in every project that you put out, man. Let's hear about it. What is that role, man?
Addie, who is the artist, friend of mine, who did my original logo, who did the SA2 artwork we didn't use, who has done the Sankofa rings sketch.
Yep.
Done so much stuff, is a friend of mine, huge friend of mine. He loves it when John Doe and I work together.
Yep.
It makes him happy. It brings him joy. It brings me joy to work with John Doe. And so we came up with the Tom rule, also known as the John Doe rule. And that states, when I have a project, John Doe must feature on the project.
That's it, man.
And there was when I did the project with Bless One, there had been a song that John Doe was on, but in the process of determining what songs would best represent that project, and I think that was never easy, being the project, we ended up not going with that song, but that song then got remixed and is going to be on the Tallyrod album.
Nice.
And that song features Saran, which is one of the dudes Casualty introduced me to back in Sweden all
Oh
those
wow.
years ago.
Oh man, that's dope, man. Well, I love the John Doe rule too, man, and
Oh,
I
big
always
time.
look for that John Doe track too as well. And I know it's
Mhm.
gonna happen. And so yeah, so yeah, you did mention that you guys met online, and I know you spent some time in San Luis Obispo, and you guys have hung out quite a bit. And you guys formed the group Silversmiths. And can you tell me about the name, where that came from, the Silversmiths?
It was one of those things
Yeah.
where, like I said, we didn't want to go on the continuation of White Collar Criminals.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
White Collar Criminals were those four friends, and
Yep.
Silversmiths is basically John Doe, myself, and someone on the beats.
Nice.
And I think we pretty much pulled the name out of thin air. We were just trying to think of something that sounded kind of cool.
Yeah.
So there's, unlike a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, I don't know if there's any real backstory to it.
Yeah. It just sounds dope, man. And
Yeah, it
I
sounds
love it,
dope,
man.
so we went with it.
Nah, super dope, man. And that leads me to another collaborator with you, who's also a frequent collaborator. Who's Athena, right? Female MC. I'm not sure where she's from, but she also is also on a lot of your tracks too. And
Mhm.
man, she's ferocious, man. And you can give me some background on Athena, man. She's an amazing rapper, man.
All right. Well, Athena, uh, she's originally from Carson.
Okay.
So when we first met her, I think it was like, again, via like message boards or whatever. Like she came through. Philip Flavor was putting together like a mixed CD or something,
Okay.
compilation. And so we went over, John Doe and myself went over to Mighty Paris, a producer's crib.
Okay.
I think he owned a skateboard shop at some point or whatever. And we met Athena over there. Like, I don't know if we picked her up or if she was there. But at that point, she had like a giant, like, I don't know if it was like a Michigan hoodie on, some big old baggy jeans. And she had a CD case that looked like one of those like swept away Totoro type things. It's like super cute. And she's just there like sitting down, like baggy anonymity clothes. And we already knew how dope she was.
Yeah.
And she dropped something for that compilation. I dropped something for it. John Doe dropped something for it. And just through the years, she too went to the armed forces.
Yep.
Done now. I think she's out in, I want to say Georgia now.
Okay, that's where I thought she was. Well, yeah, she was.
But she's one of those people. Like when I work on music with friends, I don't ever want it to be from a point of pressure. Yep. I don't want it to be a stress. I want it to be a joy, because music to me is joyful. Music to me is fun. Even if I'm sounding like I'm angry and like dark and mean, in my heart, I'm still having fun because I love the creative process.
For sure.
So there are some friends, such as Athena, who are undeniably like mind-blowingly dope.
Yeah.
But they only want to do things at certain times.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to her. I'll say, hey, I don't know if you're feeling like it, but I've got this thing coming up. And if you're feeling this beat, if you want to get on it, cool. If not, no. And what's crazy is, like, of the many projects I have coming up, she's got a verse on like 3 of them.
Oh man.
Yeah, I got a song on a project produced by Spider Gandhi, like the whole project is, and it's named after a restaurant my mom and sons like to go to. I'm not going to say the name of it yet. It's KFB. It's no longer around, but there's a song called Duel of the Iron Chef. And so she starts the track.
Okay.
And then Dens, who used to be in Wordsmiths back in the day with Agent Orange, is on it. And then Nordic One, who's out of the Bay Area, super dope dude who sounds like Sun Doobie, also another friend of mine who I got to meet in person at the barbecue, and then myself. So it's like this posse cut, like based on a Duel of the Iron Chef. So it's not like we're going like super hard at the throat. It's like we're having fun flipping stuff about Duel of the Iron Chef. So it goes doom, 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 and then it's out.
Ah, can't wait to hear it. And I've been blessed to get a sneak preview of the album cover and title, so I'll hold that until it gets coming.
You and I are in a very similar place when it comes to taking the familiar and
Yeah.
twisting it to make it ours.
I love it, man. I'm excited for it to come out. And yeah, shout out to Athena. I don't know if she's had any solo albums. I've got to look, but man, if she's got some solo stuff that you're aware about, man, I'd love to hear it. But she's a phenomenal rapper.
I
She
think
never
she's got
misses
like
one.
loose songs here and there, but as far as like an entire project, not one that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I'll check in with her and see.
Dope, man. Well, good deal, man. And so I told you that I didn't get through your 2021 albums, and so I think I'll probably save that for a different session. But I want to fast forward to 2023, and you did a song with J Tubbs. The song is called "Still." You can find that on digital streaming and YouTube. And when I heard that song, man, dude, and that to this day is like on one of my playlists that I play frequently, man. I love that song, man. Great. Can you tell me about the collaboration behind that track, how that happened, how they put it together? You guys did a music video for it too as well.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
J Tubbs is someone who came to Fort Wayne from Atlanta.
Okay.
And J Tubbs is a really good connector. Like he's able to, establish relationships with all kinds of people across the board. Like he puts on a show, it's going to be a bunch of different people on the show.
Oh.
Like I think he's the one who oversaw like Mickey Facts is coming into town.
Wow.
And so he's on the bill, he being J Tubbs. 2RQ is on the bill, and Tesla Chapman is on the bill. Tesla Chapman was the guy who was skateboarding in the music video.
Nice.
And gosh, I'm trying to think. Like Kells is hosting the night, but it's just like he's been really good about establishing connections and building with people.
Yeah, yeah.
He sent me the track and asked if I'd drop a verse on it. And I, you know me, I said yes.
Yep.
And then we recorded it and it came out. And then later on, he reached out to me about filming a music video.
Yeah.
And I'll spare you the TMI on the day of and what was happening the next day for the music video. But suffice it to say that, like, I'm thankful it worked out timing wise. And it was great because, like, with Guts Films, I think his given name is Jacob Gutzmiller. Like, he's done a bunch of videos.
Yeah.
Like, he knows what footage to get on all this and all that.
Yeah.
And just like me trying to learn lyrics, I couldn't learn them all. I'm like, I got to learn my verse again because I recorded it like 100 songs ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so by the time that I'm doing the video, I'm like 100 songs into the future.
Yeah.
And working on these other things. I'm like, okay, memorize. But then he's got all this, like the B-roll footage of like, here's the shoes, here's the jacket, like, here's the DJ scratching. And so anytime that there's a cutaway is probably a time that I was failing to lip sync. But the thing that I love about that video, and I told Jacob I want to work with it again at some point, is like, that's the most like straightforward, like rap video I've ever shot.
That's dope song, man. Yeah, dope.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to J Tubbs. He made the beat. He produced it.
That's what I was going to ask, man. Yeah.
Yep. He got DAP on there. And then he organized the shoot, and it came to be, and people dig it, man. And I'm thankful.
Yeah, it's a high rotation, and I love where you guys recorded. And then also what you were wearing during the video shoot.
Oh,
it was
dude.
like a tribute to the stuff that I was wearing back in the day, the goggles and just the East Coast style dress.
Yeah,
and
man.
I was like, man, Kofa is representing, man. And so I enjoyed that video, man. That was a fun one.
Man. Like one of my biggest challenges when I'm performing a show is like what T-shirt I'm gonna wear.
Yeah.
Like who I'm gonna rep. Like it's always important to me to be able to rep stuff. Like the shirt I'm wearing today is a Fort Wayne streetwear brand that has been defunct for like 10 plus years, but it's still dope stuff to me. So I'm still repping something. I'm like my man Greg Locke, who did $5,000 flashlights and all this stuff. Like his artwork is right there. His artwork is there. The person who did Multitudes, her artwork is right behind that plant.
Oh man, dope.
Like just trying to represent my friends. And so when it came time to shoot the music video, I'm like, dang, I'm gonna shoot a real legitimate music video. I gotta So it's like, okay, I got to get on my Saya gear. I got to get my bench warmers jacket. I got to get my Bravas hat, and then put the Saya goggles just so you can see the Bravas B, because I want to represent Bravas. Oh, I got these socks from Fear Kills Dreams. I want to represent that on top of my Saya shoes, and of course, I got my like $20 Target camouflage shorts, which are my go-to. Because you gotta have those.
Well, hey, man, let's talk about representing friends, man, and we'll talk about your merch game, man. And so, boom, I represent friends too, man. And I got this Sankofa shirt, man, that just came out. And so I want to talk about your merch game, man. It's A+ in my opinion. And can you talk about just why you invest so much in the merch game? And a lot of people these days, they're all good with digital releases and don't want to put, any effort into the merch game, but I think you do it real well. And I love the creativity behind it. So is there a reason why you choose to still continue with merch versus digital, and just the method of coming up with the merch that you put out?
Well, when it comes to merch, as far as like physical releases of my music, I feel that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
Because we're in a time when music is disposable. Music is so accessible that it essentially becomes meaningless the moment that it is out. And I am trying to find ways to counteract that. I'm trying to find ways to give music more of a resonance or more of a heft. And the way in, like, you look at the Vulture Combat drop. Nobody heard a song off of that. They saw the packaging. They didn't hear any songs. You either trust me or you don't. And I think I have put enough years in coming up with dope stuff, whether it's music or whether it's merch, to do a blind drop and say, look, you can want this or you cannot, and it'll be fine. But as far as the physical releases of the music, I wanted to make it tangible. I want to drop something physically, and I want whoever buys it, whoever supports me early, to be able to hear it before anyone else.
Yeah.
Because there's that magic to having something. It's the same reason, like with Vulture Combat and Iron Kofa Sharp, that I had black opaque tape cases. I wanted it to be a journey, man. Like, even though we didn't have the fancy like custom box like I did for Vulture Combat, I want you to see the tape and not know what it is. You have to physically exert some effort. And then you're starting to unveil and you start to understand it, because when I was first getting into music, I was buying the tapes and I was opening up the tapes and I was reading all the lyrics along and maybe finding a typo. And then I was looking at the shout outs and I was trying to find the names in the shout outs and like use that as my reference. Like, did I see any of those names at the record store?
Damn.
And so I try to make sure that if you have a physical copy, if you believe in what my friends and I are doing, that you are hearing it before other people. It'll get to DSPs, but I am not here, like, as I already said, I'm not here to make money, but I'm also not here to make money on behalf of these massive corporations and be like, hey, guess what? Here's my new project that I busted on and I feel so passionate about. I'm just going to dump it on DSPs and there you go, Spotify. No, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
If I'm going to be able to support my friends, maybe some of the money I make from music, or if I break even or whatever, that can go to them. That can go to this artwork. That can go to, buying this painting. That can go to buying that thing. Like,
that's right.
It all cycles around. So that's why I have the physical drops. As far as merchandise itself, like T-shirts and all that stuff, and like the robes that you came up with, they're like, dude, still the illest, craziest merch I've ever had. So thank you for being stationed and like keeping your eyeballs peeled. And what I love is only people who worked on that project have that, or their significant others who saw it and right away took it for themselves.
That's dope, man.
But it's just, it's having these ideas. And to me, merch is an opportunity to continue to be creative while giving my music brain a rest.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
You look at a logo and you're like, how can I flip this? I look at a logo and I'm like, how can I flip this? Like the flip I did earlier this year with Aldi. And I was like, that's done, man. I can't do anything more than that. And I'm like, that's gotta be my only shirt for the year.
Yeah.
And then I came up with the idea, the one that you just showed, and I'm like, dang, I got another one. And I'm not trying.
Sick.
But the thing is, like, I get so excited about this stuff, but I'm not trying to keep going to the well and just say, hey, I've got more stuff for you to buy. I got more stuff for you to buy, which is why when it came to, Iron Kofa Sharp, I'm like, hey, you bought Iron Kofa Sharp, you're getting $5 off the shirt because you're already supporting me. I have so much music that I'm at the point like where instead of having a Patreon or something, I'm like, maybe at the beginning of next year, I say, hey, send me $50 now and you'll get all my stuff that drops this year.
I love it, man.
Because I don't want to have to keep going to people and saying, oh, guess what? I've got another thing and I got another thing because I do have all those things, man. I got 27 projects in various stages of completion and I'm still trying to do more.
Yeah, man.
But
I love it, man. The creativity is so ill too, man. And I look forward to your next and future releases, right? I'm always wondering like what's Sankofa got cooking next, man. And that logo flip thing was like you inspired me to think about that. And so I took that from you too as well. So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, man. But to give credit where it's due, man, I probably got that from skateboarding.
Yeah.
Because
I hear you, man.
Steve
You do
Rockwell,
it well.
especially with like World Industries, like the honey pot to the money pot with Winnie the Pooh and all that stuff, like that was the culture which I came to the United States with, skateboarding and just like logo flips. And it's fun.
Yeah, super fun, man. And I certainly enjoy it. So that's you never see me. I'm not short of Sankofa gear, man. I love it, man.
And dude, I cannot wait until people see what we're doing.
Woo! Yeah, man.
There have
That's
been like
awesome.
4 or 5 people I have shared mock-ups with, like DM or whatever, or like show my wife. But other than that, like I get to work on so much stuff, and I get to work on stuff with you, and you come up with these things.
Yeah.
Like this is something I haven't even done, and I'm not trying to sound like I do everything that can be done, but no, you thought of something else, and there's the value of collaboration again. Is you have something that I never came up with.
Man,
same way that my engineer might be like, why don't you try recording somewhere else? All these things I can learn from. I listen to this album, I can learn from this. And so, man, like when people see what we are doing, they're going to go nuts.
I can't wait. I actually just hit the dude up and I was like, where's the project at and what's the status? So he'll have physical samples for us to look at next week. So yeah, that's gonna be dope, man. So yeah, shout out to your merch game. And so now I wanted to look at the other side of Sankofa, man. Now, what does Sankofa do when he's not doing music, man? What do you like to do outside of music?
Well, my job is a pre-K teacher. I love teaching kids. I love giving them the opportunity to develop an understanding of the world, that the world exists beyond them, because at that age, they're egocentric, which means developmentally, the world does revolve around them.
Sure.
And I feel it's like one of my jobs is to introduce that there is a wider world and give them the opportunities to explore it and then ask questions and think critically about their environments and learn to work with others. And I mean, these are all huge life skills. And I've always loved, hanging out with little kids. And now I get the job where like I'm teaching little kids and I got the best coworker I've ever had. And I'm at my dream school and I get to do this, man. So even though I believe firmly in there being boundaries like, oh, I'm not at work, so I'm not checking my work email. But when I'm at work, I am completely dialed in. So work, incredibly thankful for. I never thought I'd have a salary and benefits and all that stuff. Like I never really thought about the future. The future just kind of happened and it turned out pretty okay.
It sure did, man.
And then like running is my relaxation.
That's right.
Easing back into it and make sure I'm not going to snap my second Achilles or whatever. And just hanging out with my sons, my wife, just enjoy. Like one of the things that I really enjoyed is because my right Achilles was starting to get tender.
Yeah.
I went to my specialist who performed the left Achilles surgery, and he's like, "Oh, you should do a warm-up walk and then do these stretches and wear lifts in your shoes." So that warm-up walk became an opportunity for me to go walking with my sons every day in our neighborhood. and just taking the time to walk around the neighborhood and just live at that pace. And one of the things I'm so thankful for when it comes to being a teacher is I have the same time off as my sons.
Yeah, good
So
point.
we're not scrambling for someone to watch them. Like, I'm here chilling with it. We might go hike on a nature preserve. I haven't gotten their bikes out, and I keep thinking, oh yeah, I got to get their bikes out. I got to get their bikes out. But just hanging out and living at our speed.
Yeah, I love that, man. And yep, you mentioned you hit on a point that I was going to ask you about running and then just hanging out with your family. And so, yeah, and I think also you're really good at photography, man. I enjoy the photos that you post of just nature in general or what you're doing, just what Indiana looks like. And so I get to learn about Indiana through the pictures that you take. And so
Thanks.
photography, too, I think you're really good at, man. But I know, and you skipped out on this one, man. I know you didn't talk about your love for shoes, man. Let's talk about
Oh,
is it love or is it an addiction? What is it?
here's the fascinating thing, right? Like, you know full well how much it costs to make this part of music and that part of music and this part of music. And to me, like, if I break even, cool. If I get near close to breaking even, cool. It's my expenditure. Somehow in between last year and this year, like, whatever drove my connection with shoes just evaporated.
Oh,
Like I've bought one pair of shoes this year, which for me, considering I was spending, let's just say, too much money each month, all last year, every month I'd be spending X amount of dollars, right?
okay.
So yes, I love shoes. I've got a whole bunch of shoes from somewhere in America, Saya, which is an independent brand, which is what I was rocking in the J Tubbs video shoot with DAP1 that was shot by Guts Films. But like, I got all these shoes, right? But I'm not spending that money each month on this independent brand because I'm like, dude's doing well enough. Dude's buying himself a custom Lamborghini. Dude's buying like all these rental properties in Oakland. Like, so now the money that I haven't spent on shoes, like those 4 months of the year, this year that I wasn't buying shoes, I used that to press 50 records.
I love it, man.
You know, like a month and a half that I wasn't buying shoes. I used that to press 100 tapes that I just ordered like last week for a concept album that I think you're gonna love, because if you're feeling a storytelling, man, like, this whole album goes on that route.
Nice.
But like I said, like, I have had this shoe kick. I've been on this shoe thing for, man, since I moved to the United States, so like 88. And then just like at the end of this last year, for whatever reason, like, I don't even feel compelled to check what's available.
Oh, okay.
And I was buying indie brands anyway. I was buying Sneap out of Spain. I was buying Clear Weather out of like Burbank, California, and Saya was my main spot. But now I'm not spending that money on them. I'm spending that money on the music my friends and I make.
I love it, man.
Just those shoes, they're beautiful. They're in boxes. I don't interact with those boxes. My wife, she loves plants. She's got like her working on Master's Gardener stuff. She got grow tents in our basement and like all these crazy plants. But you know what? She interacts with these plants because she needs to maintain them. I buy a pair of shoes, man. They sit in a box. I forget to have them. I open up the box. I'm like, dang, these are dope. I have these. Yeah. But when I'm making music with my friends. And then when I'm working on the packaging or working on the merch that goes with it, that's with my friends.
That's right.
You know, and if you want to look at it purely from a fiscal standpoint, I don't buy shoes to sell them.
Yep.
So I buy shoes for myself, or I was buying shoes for myself. But when I'm making music, I may make some of my money back. And I'm actually doing something that involves people beyond myself opening a shoebox, smelling the beautiful fresh leather smell, because almost all of them are in mint condition, and they're putting it back in the closet.
Yeah.
Like, what purpose does that serve? My son, who's currently wearing like size 10.5 shoes, I rock a 13, so I got all these 13s. When he gets to size 13, man, he's going to have his pick of all this almost dead stock stuff that people are going to be like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate a lot of the shoes that you showcase. They're independent brands, and I love it. It's super dope, man. And I think I share the same problem too. I've slowed down as I got older, but I'm the same as you, man. For a while, I couldn't resist on some of these like special release shoes. Like
No,
I know
I
like
get it.
Raekwon did like
Yeah.
a shoe with Diodora. I bought
Hmm.
those.
Yeah,
And,
man. That's what the Vulture Combat box was based on.
yeah, that's it.
Tape shoe box. And Act One, you know, the other rapper Vulture Combat, I think he has both of those shoes.
That's
But
dope, man.
the more I became involved as an artist and someone who enjoyed creating and
Yep.
making things with my friends, like, why would I spend my money on a major brand when I am an independent artist?
Yeah, I hear you.
Like, I'm not expecting that independent brand to say, "Hey, man, thanks for repping us. Here's some free stuff." No, I do it because I want to again support people who are doing things for themselves, and that's so important to me.
Yeah, and you named a couple companies too, man. Are there any? And I know you're a big supporter of small business clothing companies, and any particular brands you want to showcase? I know you mentioned Saya for shoes, and any other companies you want to showcase, small businesses.
If you're looking for dope independent shoes, Sneep Crew, SNEEP Crew. They got an IG. It's a company based out of Spain. They make crazily high quality, handmade shoes, Vibram outsoles. Clearweather, California based shoe company. So if you're looking for an alternative other than like the New Balance variants or the whatever fancy collab is dropping on a Nike SB. Clearweather's also dope. Saya's dope. But like I said, I'm at the point where I got so many shoes. Like Fear Kills Dreams is a dope clothing brand.
Okay.
Has some of their stuff. Clever Fools is a graph centric, like a streetwear brand out of Kansas City. Bench
Nice.
Warmers. I got a crazy bench warmers like Tiger's tracksuit that I wore on a 20K race.
Yeah.
Hats from them. Just
Oh,
like just like go looking around and like that's the stuff I try to rep when I'm wearing stuff, man.
yeah.
So people are like, oh, and I'm not trying to wear something that other people can't get.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wear something that other people are like, how can I get that? And
That's
it
right.
is accessible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that, man. And yeah, you certainly have, caught my attention on some of the stuff that you're wearing, and so I've looked into the company. So super
Oh,
dope, man.
oh,
And
almost forgot. My guy Royalty. Only good things can happen.
oh,
Like he's got his brand and Royalty, who's been on a song with me, and then he's going to be on another song off the Chumzilla album. Or is it Chumzilla or is it One Grave? It's hard to keep track. Anyway, the song is called Support Indie Dope.
I see
And
you
like,
use that phrase a lot
yeah,
too, man.
yeah, that's a hashtag because I want to support independent dope.
That's right, man.
And so in his verse, I'm like, dude, I want you to rap about your experience having your own brand. And then in my verse, you know how Jizza like on labels, like just name dropped all these labels.
Yep.
Name drop all these indie brands I can think of in my
Sick.
verse.
Oh, I love it, man.
So that's definitely going to be one of those ones where you look at it, you be like brand, 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 and it's all these independent cats because I wanted to shout them out.
Yeah, that's dope, man. You do that really well too, man. So again, I always appreciate that about you. And during the interview, though, you mentioned a lot about how you're a teacher and stuff. And to me, mentoring is super important, whether it be professionally or personally or in music. And so I know from a personal standpoint, you've been a good friend in terms of like sharing music advice or just techniques in making music or just sources for merch. And I'm really grateful for that. But the Sankofa, do you have any advice for young aspiring MCs or producers? You want to talk to them about just, any advice that you want to share that you learned during your journey?
Ultimately, what I learned from my journey is the same thing all the corny after school specialists tell you, man. Be yourself, do your thing. You know
Uh,
what I mean? I don't believe in like I don't believe in, I mean, I don't personally subscribe to this whole theory of like haters and all that stuff. I find the motivation within myself. That's the most powerful thing. Not looking elsewhere for accolades or motivation. But if you are feeling something, follow that, man. follow your dreams. Like regret, that's something I don't want.
Yeah.
I went to China because I wanted that experience, because I knew I couldn't repeat that experience. If there's an opportunity to do something and you feel it in your heart, go with that, man, because you never know when it's going to happen. And even me, like at this point, my version of success isn't selling X amount of copies, getting on like Brooklyn Vegan or getting a Vice review, or, you know, showing up on, you know, Rappers Out of Control so I can do like my memorized freestyle stuff. My version of success is that I get to make music with my friends and I have fun. And that to me is success. So find your version of success and roll with it. It's too easy, because I got disheartened early on. It's too easy to get caught up in this concept that someone else is going to tell you you are worth something, your work is worth something. Find worth within your own work and roll with that. And whether or not someone else is feeling it, man, you did what you wanted to do. And there's something so powerful in doing. That's why I love rap.
That's right.
I make the rules. Yes, there are foundations that I follow when it comes to these should rhyme, there should be rhythm and all this other stuff. But there's so much of this world. I want to drop a t-shirt, I'm going to drop a t-shirt. I want to drop a tape, I'm going to drop a tape. I want to do this, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And don't be a jerk. Just be yourself. And if you happen to be a jerk, well, other people probably won't want to work with you.
Yeah.
But by the same token, be yourself, be considerate of other people. This world, as we have had this conversation, we know how tiny this world is. It doesn't matter if some big person knows your name. It matters if you are feeling what you do. And I feel what I do. I feel what I do deeply. I work with my friends because I love my friends. I don't do this for some like external motivator, some factor. I do this because I love it. And if you can find what you love and you can follow that, and even if it's stylistically not what other people are following, who cares? Everything cycles around. Maybe at some point it clicks for you in whatever way it's going to click. For me, it's clicked with me. I'm getting to talk with Memphis Reigns, Scorpion Circles, you know, Romello, like all these things. I get to do this. Why? I'm 20-something years into rap and I'm still having fun doing it. And that's why I keep doing it, because it is fun. So I'm going to hop off this soapbox and say thank you for the opportunity to speak upon that, because it's something I think about in the back of my head, but don't really materialize or manifest so much. So thank you, man.
No question, man. Like, you know, as I, you know, go through your music, and it's clear that you do this and you're having fun, and then you love making music, man. And that's what I love about you, man. And I love working with you for that fact alone, man. And with that, what are you currently working on, man? Is there anything you want to share with the folks in terms of some future projects? I know you got a lot in the making, man, but what do you want to tell us about? Yes. I believe it, man.
What I'm doing is going through this. I'm going through this. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. I decided that I would write down projects in various stages of completion.
Oh man.
I can show all you guys, because my handwriting, as formally acknowledged, is chicken scratch. So good luck reading it. Down here it says Silversmiths 3. That means we have 3 Silversmiths albums. This says G-Fam team up. G-Fam and Black and is someone who I think is super dope. And I reached out to him, and he's super busy too, but that's something I would like to see happen in the future.
Yeah.
There is a project with Chef Mike that is based on me reading a book that I have yet to read. There is a Chef Greg film joint, and that is as much as I will say about that. But suffice it to say that if it all comes together, it's going to be some crazy conceptual multimedia monster. And let's see, what else? Oh, of course, Multitudes Volume 2. Neck Kofa, Neck Nimble from back in the days, producer out of Greece. I'm working on a project with his beats right now.
I love it.
Bleeding of the Golden Goose.
Yep.
The name of our project.
Yep.
Vulture Combat 2. which is in conceptual stages. The idea being that we'll have Vulture Combat 1.5, which will basically be a collection of the songs Act 1 has been on of mine, and I have been on of his, that will come as a physical release at some point. There is a project called The Hundreds, and I have reached out to a particular producer, and the idea behind that is I was having a conversation with John Morrison, who does a bunch of who's an incredible music journalist, and we were bemoaning the lack of tempo in music. So the idea being that each of those songs is going to be at least 100 BPM, which is why it's the hundreds. And you know I love rapping fast, even though PhD Beats keeps sending me slow beats. So does Damon. There's a project called Bunk Beds, which may or may not happen. There's a super talented producer, GDM, who's also a super talented rapper and DJ, and just all-around genius guy. Hopefully he and I will be rapping. Burnt Kofa, Burnt Bacharach and I combining again. I'm about 5 songs written into that, and he just sent me 8 beats the other day. There's Plans, Plots, and Schemes, which I just sent to post. That is produced by One Grave, and that has a whole bunch of features of friends of mine. There's the album with Chumzilla, and I suppose if I'm spilling all these beans, I may as well keep spilling all these beans.
Let's go, man.
The name of the album is Magic Bottle Service. And the artwork is from a great friend of Casualties and mine named Shane Joynes.
Okay.
And the idea is that we're going to drop CDs and T-shirt bundles. And Shane Joynes is he's a collage artist, so it's crazy what he came up with. This here is the concept album that I was telling you about that we just ordered the 100 tapes for. Yeah. Tolly Rod and myself on the rapping, and we invited a couple friends along for some features. But it's a concept album. I'm not going to tell you who the producer is yet. Super dope guy. 12 Crows on a Wire is the album with Tolly Rod that is all mixed down and mastered. Artwork is from P-Roll, and I got a joint on there that's inspired by Sean P. And so there are all kinds of feels on that album, man, all kinds of feels. And then there's an album I did with an artist named Jesse Reno. He's an amazing painter and producer. I sent the vocals over to him, and he can get to it whenever he wants, because that's why I stay working on projects, is so I don't have to look back and wonder and wait. And Most Anything of Value is an album that I worked on with producer EDS. He's my friend who was in Fort Wayne, moved out to Brooklyn, and now he's in Indianapolis. For any Indianapolis friends, if you've ever posed by the Indy sign, where you stand next to the NDY to spell the word Indy, he designed that. And then there is the one with Duel of the Iron Chef on it, featuring Athena and Dan's and Robust. And I'm really excited because Grief 78 is on there too. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but I think that dude's super dope. I became aware of him with his work with Custodian of Records, and then I basically swooped up his catalog. Okay. And then, of course, Black Ketchup 3, which is all mastered and mixed and is awaiting artwork. And let's see, what else? Explicit Mass Productions. He has sent me some songs, and it's great because each of the songs I've taken a different approach on. One of the songs I learned from AJ Suede, who, if you're not familiar with, the way that he works with words. So one of the songs is inspired by AJ Suede, and there are a bunch of different feels on that, and I'm only 4 songs into that, and I know there is more stuff than that.
Man,
I know that there is.
I know. I sent you a couple.
That's only based on what I have written down so far.
Oh, that's a phenomenal and amazing list, man. Definitely hard to keep up with, but I'm super excited, man. I never fail to get a Sankofa album every couple months, and it's always a blessing to get some new work from you. I love it, man. And I'm just blessed with the opportunity to work with you, man. But hey, I'm gonna be respectful of your time, and thank you again, man, just for taking some time out of your Saturday morning with your family to come do this interview with me. And I appreciate you, man. Before we close the session, man, you want to tell folks where to find your music at? I know you mentioned it earlier, but
yeah. All right. So imagine, if you will, it is 1995. you are going to post raps on an internet message board. And the message board is called sethros.com. That is SETHROS.com, sethros.com, which is a redirect to my Bandcamp page, because I believe Bandcamp is a great place for you to get my music, though it is available on digital streaming platforms. Sethros.com for your Sankofa stuff. Yes.
Right on, brother. Well, thank you again, man. One of the most prolific in the game. Man, just dude, I've looked up to you over the years, man, and I'm honored that you took the time to do this. So thank you again, man. I look forward to sharing this interview with everybody, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, thank you. Thank you to all the people building with me, and thank you to all the people supporting the stuff that I'm making with friends, because that's what it's about. Making stuff with friends.